Okay, let's get started, everyone. Tuesday, August 8th, 2023, our regular commission meeting for the month of August. I will call to order and ask the clerk to do our roll.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor Groth, Vice Mayor Gonzalez, Commissioner Amsler.
Here.
On Zoom, Commissioner Kennedy,
Here.
Commissioner Oliveira. She's absent this evening. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Madam Clerk, Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. All right, moving on to item 4, additions, deletions, withdrawals from the agenda. Go ahead.
I recommend that we move up 13B to just before ordinances, so that we can have that discussion before we get into the weeds on what these ordinances are.
That works for me. Yep. Okay, is there any opposition to moving that item? I know it addresses one of the ordinance that is on the agenda for this evening. No? Okay. All right, great. So we will move 13B up ahead of our ordinances at the top of 10. Okay. All right, so do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Excuse me, Mayor. Yes.
Oh,
Mayor,
apologies.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner. My apologies.
hi. No worries. Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry I have to do this via Zoom today. I actually was supposed to be flying at 1 p.m. Now I'm going to be flying at 9 p.m. this afternoon. So expect me to come on and off, unfortunately, this evening. And I wanted to take this opportunity in the agenda to remove 13C and pass it to our next agenda, our next month. Because that's an item that I brought up and I want to make sure to be there to discuss it with you all. So if we could just move 13C commission meeting format for next month's commission meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Commissioner. Do we have any opposition to move that item?
Motion to approve with those two changes, please.
Okay. Do we have a second? Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, agenda is approved as amended. Commissioner Amsler, get home safely.
Thank you.
That's right. Not an option. Okay, moving to section 5, our presentations, our state senator here, and we'd like to open the floor to you.
Good evening, everyone. It's definitely good to be here today, Mayor. Thank you so much, and to the entire commission. It's a true pleasure to stand before you today, and to the residents. It's good to see year. And so 4 years ago, we changed to ensure that January, February, March happens in the election year, and we resume back in March when it is a off year. I would like to just share some wins that we were able to get across the finish line that I believe benefit all people within the state of Florida. Some of the bills that we were able to put forth and the governor signed them into law. One of them is Senate Bill 196, which was guidance services bill. And Senate Bill 196, it basically just gives students in middle school the opportunity to start the conversation about college and career readiness much earlier than in their high school 11th and 12th grade year. Also giving the opportunity for each school to have a career counselor that's appointed to that particular school to start those conversations. And yeah, we got that across the finish line with no problems, because I think we all can agree that, you know, we should be talking about the options that students have, not when they get to high school preparing to graduate, but even within their middle school year. My favorite bill is the SB 290, which is Students with Disabilities bill. The students with disabilities currently now within the state of Florida, prior to the governor signing this a few weeks ago, most students who have an IEP or individual education plan, when they turn 18, they phase out. And there's a lot of those services are not provided to those students. What this bill does, it now says that even a child with an IEP, that child will continue to receive services as long as they are in the care of the school district. And so that bill now says that, you mean, the students, whatever their individual education plans says, they must carry through until they graduate. Doesn't matter if they're 19, doesn't matter if they're 20. Next year, we're going to extend that over into colleges and universities. Why? It's because many of our students who do have individual education plans, they do not go to out-of-state colleges. Many of them stay in state for college. And we want to make sure that those services that are being provided for them while they're in public school are provided for them once they graduate. The last bill that we were able to get across the finish line in the governor's sign was Senate Bill 490, and that was Curtis Law. Curtis was a individual young man who was killed in Jacksonville, and that's for those who are tracking, it's Senate Bill 490. That prior to that bill passing, a parent, if you lose a child, many times you were not able to get information about this, to gun violence, excuse me. You were not able to get information about the death of your child until after the investigation. Now with Senate Bill 490, it now says that as long as it does not interfere with the investigative process, excuse me, that data can be released, information can be released to the parent and or to the family. I think all of those bills passed unanimously, both in the House and in the Senate. When we came here, we did the legislative update here in Biscayne Park. One of the things that came up during the legislative update prior to us going to session was the storm drainage. You all did put in for $100,000 to get the storm drainage, and we got it in the budget. The governor did veto that, and when we got the reasoning for why those dollars were vetoed, many of them was because of resiliency dollars that currently exist. And we will work with the city, like we just met with a city today, to work with them to apply for resiliency dollars. I want to let the town know, as the allocations come out, and the commission, I think this would be important for you to know, when the resiliency dollars are allocated, my suggestion would be that we work together to look at those water projects or those other projects that you desire to work on that deals with resiliency, and let's go through the process and get those dollars through the resiliency process so we do not have to go through the appropriations process. Let me tell you why. During the appropriations process, there are so many competing interests that's coming through with all 67 counties. And so as they start going through the budget process and start looking at where do we need to cut dollars at and things of that nature, it might sound weird, but the dollars that usually get cut first are dollars that are like small, like $100,000, $200,000. And I guess the state like to pay good money for these projects because we did the same. We saw some other projects that were $1 million, $2 million, and those got funded under us. And so I don't know if it was the amount. I don't know if it's a project, but we can eliminate all of that by working with the office like we have done with many cities, and they have been very, very successful in getting resiliency dollars. Miami Gardens just got theirs. Miami Beach, which I also represent, they got theirs, and we will be so proud to work with you all to do that. And I'm sure you all will be dealing with your legislative agenda soon. And because you'll be dealing with that soon, I will hope that someone from my office can come here to hear these conversations of the importance of what you all put on your legislative list, and we move from there. I will give you all one suggestion to the commission because I'm not sure, again, I'm not sure when you will start having those conversations. But when you are preparing to do your legislative agenda for next year, I would definitely suggest that you look at some of these projects that's dealing with safety, whether it's lights, whether it's making things more compliant. Those things usually get funded much quicker than anything else because of the amount of water projects that come through the pipeline. We have seen that the governor's office, they usually do veto those type of projects because they do request that we go through another source to get those done. There was a large part of a large part of the session. We dealt with two things. One of them being, and I know you don't have them here, but that's condominiums. After the Champlain Towers collapse, we did one like a part A of a bill, but we had to come back and do some changes to that. And we did make some huge changes when it comes to condos and how those are built. Not gonna spend time on that, but I do want to land in part one area, and that is property insurance. Because I know for a fact that there are many residents that are dealing with property insurance. And I kid you all not, every single day we get calls in the office of what we're going to do with property insurance, even to the point to where we get a call for someone's mortgage went up almost $620. And I think that we know in our office, we know for a fact that this is a concern. This is not a Democrat Republican issue. I think when you're talking about people's pocketbooks and when you're talking about people's wallets, property insurance is something that's hitting households in a very weird way. We will be doing a town hall meeting on what's the date? On September the 26th, we will be doing a town hall meeting along with Senator Pizzo, myself, Senator Bradley. We'll be together to give some advice to residents on what you can be doing when it comes to property insurance. We are going to bring down the representative from Tallahassee to talk about options that households and homeowners can do to lower their property insurance, even if that's a thing. When I heard that, I laughed a little bit. But there's something that the advocate wants to share with residents, and we're going to bring that forth so the residents can be very widely aware of that. And in closing, I do want to say, as we are preparing to go into our next legislative session and committee weeks are coming up, I do want to be able to engage with you all. We want to wait to after the summer months, after everything, to start going around to our cities to speak with not just the mayors and commissioners, but also speaking to residents at the same time to hear their concerns and what and how they want us to show up for them in Tallahassee. And so we will do that. We did it last year. Again, we hosted something here. We're going to do that again so we can hear from the residents and see how we could be of service to the residents here in Biscayne Park. I'm going to step back and I will open it up for any questions if there might be any from the commission.
Senator, thank you very much. We appreciate the update. Some interesting points here. One thing that just jumps out to me very quickly, the town hall with respect to the property insurance issue, September 26th, do we have a location for that?
Yeah. Do we have a location? Yeah.
And we'll get that information.
Is there a planned Zoom option for that as well?
Yeah, we'll make it. Yeah.
Okay.
You guys ever need a more appealing location than a commission chambers? We have this lovely log cabin here that we'd be
I
happy
love
to
those
host your
logs.
events and ample parking and people love it here. So
I appreciate that. And you know what? And I think we'll take you up on that, Commissioner. And maybe when we do our next event, whatever town hall we do, I would love to, we can do it here. I appreciate that.
yeah, we
And I
happily
do
host
want
you.
to introduce my chief of staff, Joe Oleksak, who's here, and Kai, who's here. They are amazing, and whatever we can do to help you in our office, we're down to do it. But any other questions, Mayor?
Just as for like from a scheduling standpoint, the resident outreach, it sounds like that's kind of preliminary right now. I imagine we'll probably get more details on when we can expect that so we can inform our residents.
Absolutely. So last year when we came, we came in right before session started. So it was around February we came. We will come much earlier this year. So committee week starts on October 9th. So which means that we'll probably start doing our legislative tours that we did last year, just a tad bit early. So I'm thinking, and this is just me off the top of my head, I'm thinking we'll probably do them in like October and November will be the two time frames in which we would do that. And what we will do is make sure we get all of that information to you all so we can do it, because and it's twofold, Mayor. It's us sharing what my legislative agenda is, talking about the bills that I'm going to be putting forth, even talking about things that you as a commission have come up with when it comes to your legislative agenda, and then also hearing from the residents and the concerns that the residents might have. And to the residents, every year I keep bill slots open to be able to take residents' ideas, and I file those ideas for residents. So if you have an idea that you want us to present, to put in bill drafting and get a bill number for it, we had one of our constituents, her bill passed last year, which dealt with food deserts. So if you have ideas, please give it to her. We would love to file it for you.
Great. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
I don't have any other questions. I appreciate the information. This is great. I certainly will leave it open.
Just a quick comment. You mentioned that low budget items seem to get cut sooner than others.
Yes, sir.
What you're saying is we need to ask for more money? Is that?
Yes. It might sound weird, but it's true, right? But let me tell you why, right? Because usually when the low budget item, and this being in the process for 12 years, low budget items, they usually recommend that take it through a department or use it through a block grant type of thing. When you're talking about $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 worth of things, they know you really need those dollars, right?
You got that down, Mac? You writing that down?
And I also will say that what would make it much easier on our end to when we make in the case that if you have matching dollars to go with it. So if you have, yeah.
That could be tough.
There goes that idea.
Now I'm not saying that's the whole, that's not, it doesn't always have to be the case, but if you have matching dollars, when we do go to the budget chair, it makes it easier for us to say, listen, they already got matching dollars for this project, or if the project has already started. So if his project has started, then therefore it makes it easier to do it. And I'll give you a prime example. In the city of Opelika wanted to redo their police station. They had already started to work, and so they just needed something on the back end to be able to do it. It was about upward to about $1.7 million, and the state funded it. I think the state just want to know that they're skin in the game and they're not funding the entire bill.
I have the insurance thing is a huge.
Out of control.
For the entire state. right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just, all the insurance people are leaving and there's only a couple of little big players and that's it. The other issue, I hope that somehow it comes up, is low income housing.
Yes, sir.
The housing situation and especially here in South Florida is just a disaster. And the homelessness issue is blowing up because people can't afford to live. They're living in their cars. And so, I would hope that that's something that y'all are really contemplating to try to address somehow. I don't know how, but.
Commissioner Gonzalez, here's what I would tell you. This year, I worked with the Senate president last year, and we're going to actually do it this year in California. They've done this, and we have the building space for it to happen. And that is, there's a lot of vacant school buildings that are no longer being used, of course. The state can give those buildings to cities for like $1 or $2 or whatever the case might be, and then work with the federal government on some type of workforce housing type ordeal. Well, our goal, and we're working with the Senate President's Office on this, and that is to see if we can pilot maybe one of these schools that have been now been vacant for quite some time and transform them into some type of workforce housing. Like I think it's time for us to get creative in how we look at affordable housing or workforce housing. And when I say that, I'm talking about, different terminologies for it. And so I want to be able to make sure it makes sense. And if it works, then how we can replicate that across the state. More particularly, we've seen in what's happening in Miami-Dade County with the homeless crisis that we're dealing with. And a lot of these individuals, they're in these predicaments, not because the county don't want to put them anywhere, they don't have anywhere to go. And so there's no area for them to go. So we want to, and I'm bringing these ideas to the president's office so we could look at what makes sense. And if we have to pilot it, and if that's something that you enjoy doing, I would love to partner with you on that. And we can work together. I would love to.
Yeah, I mean, if we can find an empty mall and
100%.
create a 1,000 pickleball courts, but that's a money generator, right?
Yeah.
So the issue here is that, how is this, at the end of the day, it's all about money.
Yeah.
People are looking to make money and how is somebody going to make money? It's just a very unfortunate whole situation with that.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing I will say that in Oakland, California, in their idea, like I just shared, they did that. What they did in the lower level, they created businesses for the lower level where people in the workforce housing live above that. So which could be an option also to ensure that those dollars can pay for
Yeah,
itself.
the biggest issue now seems to be, and this is from what my
Sure.
perspective is that it's the working
That's right.
class that now are homeless.
That's right.
The working homeless,
Oh, yeah.
people that are actually have jobs, but they
Yeah.
just cannot afford to pay $3,000 for a one bedroom.
That's right.
apartment, right? So it's just getting completely out of control here.
Yeah. We're in the same choir, brother. I promise you. Yes, sir. Yes,
If I
sir.
can tag one thing onto that, an additional part of the problem is because of the laws regarding short-term rentals.
Mm,
We are losing so many single-family homes here in our community that are now short-term rentals. So, I mean, I was just looking at a map here with our interim manager, and it's shocking the number of houses in this very small community that are no longer single-family homes for families to live in.
Mm.
They are short-term rentals for people here on vacation, and we have the state, not you, but the state has stripped away a lot of our authority
Of course.
to, not allow that or to diminish it in any way. We have some measure of control, but it's really how those properties impact our quality of life more than anything, but we can't say no to them. And it's just, it's really surprising when you go through a little community like this and you see how many of the houses that you walk and drive past that no one lives in,
Mhm.
except on weekends when they come to party in Miami.
Mhm.
And then they cause problems and cost us a lot of money and make our life miserable. So what the state has done with those laws and taking that power away from us has really changed the character of this community and also decreased our housing stock. And I'm going to guess that's a problem countywide here in Miami-Dade
it
County
is.
especially. I'm going to guess it's probably not as dramatic in some of the counties that some of these other state legislators live in.
And Commissioner King, I'll tell you this, is that last year, thanks to a lot of the cities, they were about to do a huge overhaul when it came to short-term rentals. And I sit on regulatory affairs. And many of the cities, mostly from South Florida, really asked for the state to stop for 2 seconds because of that. Miami Beach, Hollywood, now and you all from Biscayne Park, I've been having a very issue with this. I would really suggest that as session comes around again, I would love to hear you all's voice on this issue. It'll be helpful to me because when I'm in committee and it comes back, I can now name off all my cities who are not in favor of us doing anything to expand short-term rentals. And I think that's what brought a stop to what we were almost could have seen last legislative session. I tell people all the time, just because you can see it this session doesn't mean it's not going to happen again. But if you all could add your voice to that, it'll be extremely helpful to me because now that gives me a good storytelling moment.
Let us know when and how we can do
Say
that.
less.
This map is really interesting and if you want a copy of it, I'm sure the
I would
village will
love
give it
it.
to you. But in a community of 1,100 homes, I believe if I'm reading this correctly, Doreen, there's 159 short-term rentals in a community of 1,100 homes.
Wow.
So that's shocking.
That is shocking.
Yeah, that's more than, what percentage is that? Somebody who does better math than I,
10%?
like 12% or something? Yeah. So it's rather dramatic if you think about a community that lost 10, 12, 13% of its housing stock to short-term rentals before you even start considering the negative impact they have on the community and the way they drive up prices. I went to 2 open houses this past weekend here in Biscayne Park. I was just a looky-loo. I'm one of those people that bother the realtors. And in both cases, my husband and I walked out and looked at each other and said, that's a short-term rental. That's all that can possibly be. Who else is going to buy that for that amount of money?
Yeah.
Unless they can make that kind of money off of it.
May I have, may I? Okay, thank you. I got you.
Is that included in this mapping?
Yes,
It's a
here-
great
yes, it's right
map,
here.
Doreen.
Yeah, I got it. Okay.
I don't get to recognize you. Maybe
Well-
Jonathan will.
Well, public comments coming up next, if you wouldn't mind just
I understand.
sitting for us for a few
Yeah,
minutes while we
I get you.
move into public comment
Yeah,
and add
Can I
that.
ask you one more quick question?
Please.
When you do your legislative tour, the last time you were here, I believe I was
was
out
out
of
of town.
town.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't get to attend. Do you and the local representative ever do those tours together?
Who is the rep for this area?
Dottie
is-
Joseph.
I mean, we invite all of our reps to be a part of.
I'm just
it.
thinking as a logistical kind of thing, if we were able to advertise to our residents that our state representative and
And
our
both-
state senator were both here
100%.
and they were addressing a list of topics and taking questions, I think we could fill this room for you and then some. If they knew you were both here, especially like, wow, the state is coming to see us.
I like that. And so
Yeah.
we always invite them to come over. But I think we'll be more intentional about that
Okay.
and what we can do, and we'll advertise that she and I both would do it
Okay.
together.
If
That's
you could
easy.
get Marco Rubio here, that would be great too. And we wouldn't mind Pete Buttigieg coming to talk about our roads. So if you could
Let me write
coordinate all of
wish
that,
list
that'd
down.
be great.
I hang out for a minute. Mayor.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
Senator, thank you very much. We'll open to public comment. We'll start with folks here in the village or in the log cabin. Brief reminder on public comment. Commissioner Amsler's item that we pulled linked a resolution that changed our charter that limited public comment to 3 minutes. I haven't been very good about enforcing that, so I would like to remind everyone to please be conscious of the limitation going forward.
Is that directed at me?
Now it's directed to
Huh.
everyone here and listening.
Um,
It's required by the charter and I haven't been very good at enforcing it. So I just wanted to point that out.
all right, thank you, Mayor. Normally I like to wait but because the senator is here, I thought this would be something that he would like to hear about. Because this is something that the legislature has directly done that is affecting our village. And is the memo that our attorney put out last week. Basically, the legislative changes that was made this past session that actually has the potential to take away our ability to regulate the color, the style, the type of roofs that we can have on our houses, the architectural styling, the window locations. This section 163.3202 that was passed in 2020 and then amended this past session really does have the potential to gut our code as it is, not even talking about the new stuff that we've been working on for the last 2 years. We're talking about, and I just spoke to the attorney before, taking away our ability to, like I said, to take our colors, our tile roofs. I mean, we have an ordinance that basically all our roofs in the village have to be tile. According to this, it says that we cannot no longer regulate the type of material for our roofs. If we go down this route. I did present a memo countering the attorney's memo, not to disagree with them, but I was trying to point out a different point of view. And I believe it is up to the commission to take a look at it and decide how they want to address the vagueness. Because really, if you look at this, the way that this is written, it is, there's no definition of what a design review board is. There's no definition of an architectural review board. There's what is ornamentation? What is there, the legislature wrote a very, very vague statute that actually has has a possibility to really affect us as a village. So I know that we're going to be discussing this coming up after the consent agenda. So, and I don't think this has public comment. So I just really wanted to hope that you really take a look at it and think about this, because if we decide to go down this route, it could really change the character of our village on top of the Airbnbs, on top of everything else. I will make myself available if you have any questions, but thank you. And thank you, Senator, for being here.
Thank you. Sure. Sorry, we're just gonna have the senator address that for us. Sorry.
Take my 3 minutes. To your point, please come on the 26th. Let me tell you why. Senator Bradley, who carried that legislation, will be present there. And because we are the bill filing opportunity opens up next month on the 1st. I think you, her, and myself on the 26th should connect together prior or after the meeting, so we can talk about how this affects the village, because I'm sure you're not the only one who's going through this. And let's see if we can amend, because we just amended this language the last session. Let's see if we can do that moving forward to figure out how we can bring some resolve to that, because you're in the right time frame to make that happen. Okay, I appreciate you.
Thank you, Senator. Sorry about that.
Is the date September 26th? 26th. That's our budget hearing, unfortunately.
Oof.
Yeah.
Bummer. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. So, basically,
Thank you, Senator.
we're really looking for our, sorry,
Yeah, you're,
Oh,
just give us.
my name's Isabella.
My name's Malia.
I live on 109th Street, and we're part of the Girl Scouts. We're working on our Silver Award. And our deadline is September 30th. We really need to get a move on this project. We have less than 2 months to completely get this. We really need our approval by commissioners and by the city to give it to council for them to give us our final approval. But basically, just to touch up on all of our plans, basically, we're gonna move the park bench from the back to the front to make it more welcoming. We're gonna have 2 not very high poles, maybe about this high, poles to replace the cones that are there, just to stop vehicles from coming in and just to make it look more nicer. As Mac has said, put the dog stations, the bags for the dogs, trash cans, of course, as there's already one there, and just add some more native plants, get rid of our invasive ones, and just clean it up, make it more welcoming, just so more people will be attracted to come over. And nothing crazy, just very simple.
When was the deadline? You said September 30th?
September 30th.
You need
yes.
you need the commission's approval before September 30th to,
We need the project complete by September 30th.
you need to complete it before September
Yes.
30th. How
It's-
long do you expect the project to take? About?
Maybe like 3 weeks if we're really using our time wisely. Maybe 4 weeks.
But you need
depending.
the council's approval before you start the project.
So council has pretty much approved it. They just need the
Our
city
approval.
to, yes,
It means the Girl Scout Council.
yes, Girl
So
Scout.
the Girl Scout Council has to approve it before, exactly.
Exactly.
So they're waiting for us to give approval so they can
Yes.
tell you you have the
Yes.
go ahead to
I
complete the
just
project.
need, we just need like a signed paper that just shows them that you guys have approved it.
You were here before, right?
Yes,
I think our recommendation was that they go and meet with Parks and Parkway. and-
They did.
yes.
They did, you did. Okay,
Yes.
so did you meet with them? Did they give you a recommendation? Did they because I haven't seen anything from Parks and Parkway about this.
Neither.
So their recommendation was to, one, get help and advisor with our garden. And mainly to try to get into the next meeting to really get you guys to approve it. And yeah, that was pretty much the main
So,
parts.
If I may, it sounds like they met with Parks and Parkway, who said the idea sounds great. I wasn't able to attend the meeting. It's when I was out of town on a trip. But I sent them an extensive kind of like list of here's some suggestions and questions and things, and she responded back to me pretty clearly about those things. And they've asked me to be an advisor to the group to help them with some plant selections and sort of moving things around back there. And I explained to her that I can't do that without the commission's approval, that I can't unilaterally say I'm going to be their advisor. I'm not certain I can do it at all, Ed. So they're asking for someone from this group to help them sort of get this together.
Or Ed, can he serve in that role? I don't see it as a problem.
I don't know how you are at plants with plants though.
He'll have people over his
Okay.
shoulder that'll.
So
Yeah,
is there anything specific you need in the letter from us? Just so the project that you propose to the commission on this date is approved with the
Mhm.
commission signatures? Does that
Yes,
work?
that's exactly what we need.
Okay.
And
Alright,
I
how
had a
about-
few ideas on protecting the pole moving and things like that. We can oversee that and make sure that it's an acceptable process. And if it isn't something we can make it temporary. Meaning we could sleeve it, put the pole in a sleeve. And so if we don't like it and want to change our minds, we want to work with them to do that, of course. But because of the time crunch, there's ways around it that,
Is that something you could write up for us to just sign independently?
yeah, I think you can approve it in form in tonight and let us get this done.
Okay, so.
And we'll do it in a way that doesn't restrict us permanently. If there's something that could be restrictive, just imagine.
If you're gonna ask me to be their advisor or say that I can be their advisor, would you want me to write something up, Paul, meet with them and write something up for you?
You're a very good writer, so I'm inclined to agree.
Okay, so why don't I do that? Why don't I help them
Works.
put something together for Paul that he can then get you guys, I guess Jonathan has to sign it.
Does that work?
Cool.
You
Or can
need
I just
my
sign it
signature, do you
myself?
need The whole group.
Their advisor, can I sign it?
I would say the whole group,
Okay.
just to be safe.
That's gonna be a little more to wrangle, but it's always difficult to get 5 signatures.
We were also advised by the Lowe's manager, so we went over to just get like our budget kind of.
Mhm.
And we were advised for the poles to put concrete just to make sure that they're stable, so that it would take a pretty hard beating just for them to be knocked over.
I think that's something that we could have our manager here work on in the proposal that we'll all sign. So
Okay.
I think it sounds like we're comfortable with this. What we'll do is we'll have Commissioner Kennedy work with our manager to draft something up for you. We'll review it. We'll sign it because it sounds like everyone here is in consensus that we like the idea and that we'd like you to move forward with it.
If I can make one little suggestion there, you might want to just authorize only the mayor to sign it. If you need all 5 signatures on it, that might be a challenge. We might not get all 5 of us in
No,
there.
not necessarily. I mean, if you leave it at the city hall, people can come by there and just swing by and.
I don't know everybody's availability, so I'm just saying it might be, I don't want to slow them down because they're waiting for one signature when Jonathan could just sign it and be
Listen,
done.
I'm fine with
Well,
whatever.
yeah.
How about this? You find out from the troop leader, whomever is overseeing this, if I can just sign it, that's fine. I'm happy to do it. If you need everybody, I think DocuSign is an alternative way that we can get it out to everyone electronically, so they don't have to physically show up to do it.
Yeah.
So
All right, thank you.
I
very
think
much.
that's it.
Thank
So
you.
drop
Mayor,
me
if
an-
I may.
Sure. Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you. I was just gonna ask, so Paul, you said we are able to participate and help. Is this in any way have an impact on us financially? Are we involved financially in this project, and how? Do we know that?
To my knowledge, no, they're funding the
So
labor.
basically,
to-
yeah, we can't take donations specifically by money. If an item donation, yes, we can. But I think we're pretty good on that. We are making dog bow ties and scrunchies by hand just to sell to make our money. And yeah.
That's
pretty much-
wonderful. Good for you guys. Thank you for doing this. I was actually taking pictures of that side of the park the other day and noticed this invasive species taking over critically all over the place. So your help is very much appreciated. So there's no impact financially for the village and getting involved in this project.
No,
Correct?
no. we
Thank
don't-
you. Thank you. Thank you all again. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Isabella, send me an email and we'll set up a meeting for me to come down and meet with you and your mom and walk through it, okay?
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Tiffany Hill with the Biscayne Park Foundation, and George is with me as well. So we have our upcoming event Saturday, September 9th, 5 to 8 PM night at the cabin. What we brought up before, but we wanted to just make sure we had your assistance with this, would be requesting to have a police officer present during the event. Also, to have a public works employee help with setup and cleanup. So maybe an hour before the event, an hour after. It may not take that long. Of course, the foundation board will be here to assist with setup and cleanup as well. But just in case we need the help putting back, chairs and tables and such as it was. And allowing guests to park on the grass medians here. However, we will promote to residents to encourage walking or use rideshare. That's it. Oh, yeah. And if you need anything else from us regarding the event. Night at the cabin,
Night at the cabin. The date is,
September 9th from 5 to 8 PM.
is that a ticketed event?
We are doing free ticket sales just so we can kind of get a head count on food and beverage items that we need to purchase. And then we're also selling tickets at the door.
So it is not a free event for village residents. They have to pay to attend.
Yes. But it's gonna be fun. We're gonna have art vendors, music, wine, light bites. So all the money and all the proceeds go towards our events and our goal this year of renovating the rec center. So everything helps.
Thank you. This came to us already once. Did we approve this, or is this something we did approve it? Okay. I thought so too. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I believe it is, yes.
Okay. So yeah, so we,
I don't recall them requesting a police officer or a public works employee, but that's up to Paul.
So we can assign that out if they're available, assuming they are, and we'll.
it sounds like we're good with everything you
Hopefully
need.
we see you all there too.
Definitely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you both.
All right, Dan Samari, 1153 Griffey Boulevard. September 11 is coming up and I usually have my annual, I already checked with Issa and he's okay with it. So we have my collection at the rec center from September 1st to the 31st of September. And then also the village, hopefully again this year, is going to participate on September 11th to honor the victims of 9/11. We haven't gotten time yet because the commission approves it. I want to be able to sit down with the chief and figure out how we want to do it. My next comment is something that I went through, so I just want to make it perfectly clear. I heard that one of our commissioners is possibly planning on resigning from her commission seat because of residency. I want this commission and the commissioner to understand the rules of residency according to our charter. As long as the commissioner maintains residency in the village, that person does not have to resign. If the commissioner resides outside the village, that person has 30 days to make a commitment to move back into the village. I don't want this commissioner, if it happens, to resign because of residency. So, and the commission decides what the residency rules are as far as it comes to that individual. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that takes care of public comment here in the village, I think. I'd like to address that last point for the September 11 collection when we get to the reply, just so we can move through the remaining public comments. Do we have any public comments on Zoom? If so, please raise your hand and we will allow you to provide comment. Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Dan, for providing that. So I don't know that we've discussed any plans for that date as of yet. Is that something that we plan with the chief for September 11?
We do not have that on our schedule, but we can add it.
Yeah, please.
I got tangled up in two different dates. What, September 11th and
Okay,
September,
I'm
I-
sorry,
I
I was
didn't
trying to
understand.
be within my 3 minutes, so I was learning to talk
So
within.
you said
my
the
3
first
minutes.
was something,
Okay.
the
Every
month
year-
of September.
Every year, I usually have my collection at the rec center from September 1st to the 31st. And the last couple of years, I signed a waiver, not holding the village responsible. I've never had a problem with the collection, except for once where an adult touched the book and put it on something, but the kids in there have been very good. And I am going to be opening it up, and hopefully I want to start educating, because I'm in the process of possibly going into one of the schools for this, so.
When you say
possibly.
collection, what is that? What do you mean?
I have I have a collection that I've started since 2001. Every year it improves. It's been at the rec center every single year, and it's been really good of different items in reference to 9/11. And so we're gonna have that again this year, but there's a good possibility that it's gonna be moved to one of the schools during the year, because the kids have been asking, because our kids don't know anything about September 11. And you'll be surprised. While my collection has been at the rec center, I've never had a child that has touched it. It has stopped other people from touching it. So again, I will sign that waiver that I've been doing the last couple of years. That's not holding, so it doesn't cost anything. And usually I just get permission from the commission, because that basically waives the fee. Because there's a fee that we charge, that the village charge for having at the rec center.
Right.
And then usually the police chief does something. Starting last year, I think was the first year that the village actually did it, where we had an event, we had commissioners come there, and with the chief and the city manager, we organized it to honor that day. Usually the police chief just goes out there and salutes the flag. I made it into a ceremony where it took about an hour and a half. We had different things that we talked about. We showed videos and stuff like that. So it was really good. All the cities do it. And I used to wonder why Biscayne Park never did it.
How many years have you been doing this, Dan?
I've been in the village since
No, how many years have you been doing the collection?
over 10, maybe 12 years.
Really?
Yeah, about 10 years.
First I hear of it.
Yeah, yeah.
I've
And
been
use,
here 2.5 years. and
well,
I-
because what happens is since it's my event, the village doesn't promote it. And I'm
But
hoping.
you said that we have to give you, that you always ask for permission to do it, right?
I always ask permission. As the city manager has always told me, in the past, I had problems with past city managers that have caused me problems. So now, I just ask. I was told that I don't even need it. That's why I didn't put it on the agenda. I'm doing it in public comments. But I need permission to have it at the rec center, because the rec center belongs to the residents. So, and there's a fee, but I've never had any problems with it.
If we can look for that waiver, whatever that we've done in the past,
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
What's the date of it again?
It's September 11th. It's on some, what I
11th?
originally used to do it, and the chief brought it out to me that it was I used to have the September 11th event on a Sunday to where residents can come on the weekend. And the chief brought it to my attention that that's disrespectful, that it has to be on September 11th. It can't be any other day. We're talking about the event. We're not talking about the thing.
Right.
So that's why I haven't decided the time yet, because I have to sit down with the chief, and usually the commissioners come, and usually there's a proclamation. So I can ask the commission if they can present the proclamation that will go for the collection. Of this collection every year, it improves. My goal is, and I've already told my grandkids and my son and daughter, that the collection is going to, God forbid something happens to me, the collection is going to be donated. And I've been trying for the last couple of years to see if we can do it in the village of Biscayne Park, get fundraising and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That we can have the collection be presented in the village of Biscayne Park. But this is the first year that I've had responses from the school. The only bad part of it is I have to move the collection over there, and that's traveling and, damaging it. But so far this year, I'm having one school that is possibly going to allow me to have the collection there.
Okay, so why don't we do this? So two separate items. First, on the collection, we'll have manager dig up the waiver that you've done in the
Right,
past,
right.
and you can have the installation in the rec center where you've had it for the last decade. If a school comes calling, you come pick it up and do what you need to do. As far as the event goes, is there anything tied to that?
What is that one?
Otherwise,
Considering it's first time it started was last year, that it was the previous city manager did it. We made it into Village of Biscayne Park event. So that means it's done on the letterhead. It's approved by, it's actually almost like run by the Village of Biscayne Park. So it's on their letterhead and you know, and then I do the ceremony and everything.
do you have
And it
any
was
idea
very good last year. I mean, it
What
was-
what does that look like? What do you need us to do?
Well, they don't actually do it, just giving the permission from the Village of Biscayne. That it's this event is sponsored by the Village of Biscayne Park and Creepy Critters Pest Control, which is my company. And so it's an event that is done by the Village of Biscayne Park. So it is a village event.
So when you say sponsored, are you asking for any money?
No. It's
Okay.
just that the event has to be approved by the Village of Biscayne Park, meaning we can't do anything unless the Village of Biscayne Park basically has the whole say on how the event is run. But as far as how the presentations and stuff, I'm responsible for that. And we usually have commissioners that show up.
So is
And,
that something you could maybe sit down with the chief and provide? kind of
oh,
like
yeah,
a-
no,
sort of like
I've been doing that with,
agenda To the manager
Yes.
for approval?
yes, I've been doing that with the city, with the chief and with the ISA. And ISA basically told me I didn't need to come in front of the commission to get it. But I always like to bring stuff in front of the commission for the commission to
Okay,
approve it
well,
or disapprove it.
So, I mean, then I think the way that this makes sense, and I will put it up to the commission here, is for you to meet with the chief, meet with ISA,
Yes.
put together a plan on what it's going to look like and provide it to.
And the city manager.
Well. to
No, and the
you or
city
to Chris, whomever's in charge, so to speak, at the time, to review and kind of consider and approve if there's. no
And it
issues.
helps the village also to promote it. That's the thing. You know, when I put on an event, it's my responsibility to promote it. When it's a 9/11, that's the village's responsibility along with me to promote it. We did it last year and it was really
Yeah,
good.
sure, of
It
course.
was really good last year. We didn't have a problem.
So then if we have agreement from everyone sitting up here to go ahead and have you work with those folks that we just identified,
Yes.
it'll open up to any comment.
It's a really nice event. A lot of veterans show up and Boy
Yes.
Scouts and Girl Scouts.
And hopefully,
It's
hopefully.
a very
we-
nice event.
Hopefully, it depends on the time of the day. I know it's a work day. Hopefully, we can get the commissioners to speak, the mayor to speak. Usually I try to get public officials, but it's very hard because they hold the event on the same day. But I think it's just something that, as me and Commissioner Kennedy were working on each month, we have events that we honor, 9/11, and we started doing that. That we need to do that as a village, that honor in 9/11, because there was a lot of residents out here. And hopefully having, if it's possible, the village to support having a 9/11 collection day is one, good for educating kids, but it's also good for the village, because then I can promote, the Village of Biscayne Park is doing it, should come to our rec center and see it. I've been doing it in the past, but, sometimes I need help in promoting it. But if that's something that's going to benefit the village, having outside residents come and see the collection. It's,
Perfect. No, that's great. So why don't we do that? So we'll look for the waiver for the collection and get that out to you.
yeah, I think they should
then-
have, you should have it on record, the clerk can get it. There was a waiver that I started. Because one of the years ago, when I first did this, one of the disadvantages that people didn't want to do it is they were afraid that I would hold the village responsible for any damage that is done. Out of all the years that I've done it, like I said, I've never had any missing stuff. Only one book was missing, and that was put on a bookshelf. And that was done by an adult, but the kids have really supported. So my collection has never been damaged, destroyed, anything, but it's a very expensive
So
collection.
we're approving it.
Yes, we'll have you get the waiver and we'll have you work with the chief and with
Yes,
ISA and
that's- yeah,
it works for
that's-
us.
And hopefully, commissioners will be able to participate on it. It'd be nice.
Dan, thank you very much.
Jonathan, there's a resident who didn't realize how public comment worked.
Yes,
Hi,
so
good evening.
name and address and then public comment is 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Kelly. I live on 11122 Northeast 10th Ave. I'm having an issue with open feeding cats. I've brought this issue before in the past, and Fortunately, my neighbors are not here because of their busy schedule, but I'm here because we're having lots of issues with the cats where my front neighbor across the hall across where I live is feeding cats openly. And we repeatedly have told her to stop feeding them. Unfortunately, my private stuff is getting damaged because of that issue, and also cars are getting damaged. And they cited her twice, I believe, in the past, and she keeps doing it. So I'm just really fed up with everything that she's doing with the open feeding and everything. So I need some assistance if you guys could cite her again or do what you have to do, but it's really becoming an issue for us.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And I also have proof of everything, videos and everything that she's feeding them.
Understood. Thank you. It's on our agenda to discuss later. And certainly we would recommend,
Oh,
I would
and
recommend being in
I've
touch with
stopped.
code.
And another thing, I wanted to talk to Commissioner Kennedy. I had an issue with yesterday with one of the birds, remember the nest? The cat got the bird. Fortunately. So,
We're talking about it tonight.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor, we have one comment.
Okay.
Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Sean, hey, let me know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, Sean O'Neill, I'm familiar to all of you guys. 11709 Northeast 8th Avenue. Again, I've been before you guys several times on the cat issue. I won't repeat it. It's obviously similar to what the resident who just spoke about. We had a house across the street as well that at one point was kind of cat central. When that resident left, the kind of other neighbors started picking up the slack, and that's when the problem started to, I guess, intensify or become a problem before it wasn't. That house has been since knocked down, and there's a gate around it, but the issue's still going on. And it, kind of seemed to lull a little bit, and then it's picked back up. And so, having all the same issues, cats on cars, feces in the backyard, et cetera. Open feeding causing, or at least I believe causing raccoons to come and go more frequently than they otherwise were. So, glad to see it's being talked about again. Hopefully something productive will come out of it. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to, if there's any, we already kind of had this, but if there's any additional reply to comments? No, okay. So let's move on to our reports. Starting off with 8A, our manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reports speak for themselves for the most part, but I did invite Doreen from Code Enforcement to answer any questions that were still lingering from our last meeting. We had a few questions, some of which was the use of jargon, which we're working to remove. The jargon we had last time was actually the name of the thing, the software. That's the only thing we know it as. So it was a little hard to not hit that one, but we'll get better at that. But the one point I wanted to make was the ability of our software and our capability of our staff to pull out the short-term rental data electronically and then act on it. And Mac and the state senator already gave that report to you indirectly, so I don't have to go through it again. But it's great capability, and you all remember in the managers and staff report in the budget presentation that there is an item in there for the village to develop a GIS capability of its own, which is really what this software does in a very light fashion, but you lose control of that data. Whereas when you have your own GIS data set and management, you can do more with it. And so it's an excellent example to present to you that ultimately that's where we need to be as a village to be more capable. The Airbnbs, and not to point them out, but as an example, they have ability to, and Doreen was explaining what she did in Miami Beach, they have the ability to find out how you're finding out that they're using it and they have a game plan against you and everything you do. So I think it's a cat and mouse game or arms, I don't know, it's some sort of techno war where you have to constantly evolve and get ahead of them. So we're learning and she's a pro at this with her experience, and we're lucky to have her leading it. If there's any questions about her report, she's here.
So, would mind coming up if we have any specific questions for you? Thank you, Paul.
Good afternoon, evening.
So we've seen the data. Do we have any specific questions for?
If I may, so this is the first time I saw it tonight, Doreen. Paul handed it to me when I came in. We have been discussing this. It's a very impressive report. So thank you very much for putting that together. My first impression is I'm surprised, I'm impressed at the number of compliant short-term rental units that you've been able to
Identify.
build, properties you've been able to make it compliant. So that's really impressive because they didn't know about this until we passed this ordinance. But if I'm understanding this correctly, have you determined that there are 159 short-term rentals, but only 95 of them are compliant? No, that's not correct. How many are you aware of and how many are compliant?
So right now we have a list. I gave the manager another report. So the 159 is what's showing on the software that these properties may be advertising or renting on a short-term basis. So what we do is once we get that information on the map, you'll see the red dots. We click on the red dot and it gives us the actual property address and information on where they're advertising, whether it's Airbnb, the platform, basically.
So even though the platform doesn't show the address because they don't, your software can determine the address.
Yes, it uses,
Ooh,
it
nice.
uses, it's connected to a GSI
Okay.
program that will take the pictures that they use to advertise and attach it to pictures that they may have posted before.
I
It
see.
attaches it to the address. So.
Like you're the CIA of short-term rental.
So they use alias names and alias phrases to advertise the properties, but our software is able to still pick it up and pinpoint exactly where that picture is on the GIS.
Unrelated to that, I have a question about the trash cans because are the stickers on all the trash cans? They're only on one of mine. So
Correct.
I can only speak to my own personal experience. It's on one of my trash cans, not the other.
The other's a trash can also. It's not a recycling.
It's a recycling.
Yeah, so the language of the sticker is really specific to just trash, so it would be confusing to put it on the recycling. The language was written for trash.
I think people would probably understand that it applied to the trash can that it was stuck on, but have you seen?
was the
an
advice we got.
Have you seen an increase in compliance there as a result of the stickers?
Yes and no. I've seen certain areas where people will take their trash cans back inside right away, here in the middle somewhere. But some people just won't do it. And the reason I think is they go to work, they put their trash cans outside, they come in the evening and they just walk past their trash can and don't put them back in. Now, I do want to enforce this. I do want to issue violations, but because of the workload and being understaffed, I just personally told my code officer, let's focus on these bigger violations and enforcing the new codes. With the smaller violations like trash cans, we knock on the door when we see them and we just ask them to put it back. I could spend time issuing violations, but it takes the same amount of time. Let me put it like this. For me to issue a violation for a trash can and a violation for a short-term rental. Short-term rental does require me to do a little bit more research, as you can see. However, it's $1,000 violation. The trash can is a $25 violation. So as much as I am into beautifying the place and making sure people do what they're supposed to do, I had to prioritize. These violations bring the village a lot of money.
A trash can violation qualifies, I'm going to use the wrong words. Is it an administrative citation?
It is an
And
administrative.
is that a
citation.
shorter process for you?
unfortunately, the state statute does not differentiate between a regular violation and administrative violation. The process is the
Streamline
same.
it for you.
And that's exactly what I'm working on. I'm trying to streamline how we do it. If I can get compliance before I issue the violation, I'll
Yeah.
try and do that. If I can talk to them and tell them, just put this garbage container. This is the first time I'm telling you this, second time, by the third time I'm issuing you with a violation, you don't want that. Usually people comply. So
Okay.
with that particular area, that's what I'm doing.
You're
I'm
working on
not saying
bigger
that's what
fish.
I'm gonna continue doing. Once I get this in order with the short-term rentals,
Yeah.
I might go out there and just,
Okay. Since we have you, it's great to have you here. So one other quick thing. We had a budget workshop a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things I submitted a list of things that I wanted to discuss putting in the budget.
Yes.
And one of the things I put on there was making sure that your department has everything it needs to work efficiently in the field.
Yes.
Can you speak to that to us while we're sitting here? Do you have what you need in the field to work efficiently in the vehicle, to be able to process things, Wi-Fi, print things, and not have to go back to Village Hall and do a lot of paperwork?
unfortunately, we don't. We don't have printers. We don't have an iPad. We do have one iPad, but I don't have an iPad, and I'm hoping to have another officer. We only have that one iPad. So once this officer is using that iPad, I'm not able to do it. Now, the iPad works for him because he's able to access OpenGov, our software that keeps our records. One of them, not the BSNA, and I won't be use BSNA again. It's BS and A.
Oh, that's
It's the
the
name
acronym.
of
I
the
didn't know what it
software.
was. Okay,
It's
okay.
the
That
name
was
of the
me. I just didn't know
software.
what it was. Okay. So so I just wanted to put that there as a talking point for our budget
Right.
conversation. If there are things you need, I personally would love to know what they are to
Yes.
make your job easier and have you be more efficient, so you get a whole lot more done for the village. And I feel like there's maybe some missing technology for your department.
Absolutely. Fortunately, the manager is on it, and he did approach me. I gave him some information.
Okay.
We looked at the prices, and he'll make the final decision on how
Okay.
we do it. He wants to incorporate it with the GIS program they're working on. So we are able to get out in the field and do our work, complete our work in the
Complete
field.
your work in the field and
We're-
not have to go back and forth.
Absolutely.
That would be
It
great.
will- It will double what we are able to accomplish.
Well, speaking of doubling, ask for twice what you really need for the budget process.
The manager's listening.
So we can pull
Those are
back,
finance
and
director.
you'll still get what you want, Doreen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I really only had a more general question that was just addressed, was from your perspective and your experience, what would you need to better enforce code? And it sounds like we've already kind of addressed that point, to try and kind of target's not the right word, but better enforce the entirety of the code versus
Definitely.
just select pieces of it.
Yeah, digital mobility is on the top list.
Yeah.
I've been working with my officer and the clerk in the office about how we communicate with the public, because that also helps us in achieving compliance before we can even issue a violation. So we are thinking going forward of doing some workshops in the community to educate them more about code compliance, what we do. And so we are not the enemy. We are trying to clean up the city, the village. So going forward, I want to do that and maybe work with the clerk in sending out, every time she sends out the village-wide emails, we can put a little, say a code in there and explain what it is. The commonly used codes, we call them CUCs, just so the public is reminded that don't leave your trash bins out there. It's a violation. Please put them back. So in that way, they have different ways of getting information from us, and we are communicating in different ways.
Sure.
Not just depending on us sweeping the village, which is sometimes difficult considering the amount of paperwork we have.
Of course, and not to step on Paul's toes here, but I know we have our new manager on listening as well, so maybe he'll have some ideas to share with you on those points.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
What
Thank
was the
you.
name, the word, you just used a phrase to describe the technology that you need. I didn't get it written down quickly enough.
Digital mobility.
Digital mobility. Got it. Thank you.
I learned that from the manager.
Doreen, thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so, Paul, were there any other points you wanted to make with the manager's report at this time?
No, sir.
Um, any other comment or discussion before we move on to village reports? Village reports?
I have no, I just have a quick question, Mac. Maybe Mac knows the answer, but at our last commission, previous commission, I know we talked about the drains in the field, in the village. And one of the questions that David kept coming to us was that we didn't have it mapped out. We didn't know where every single drain was within this. Did we ever figure that out? Did we ever
I
get?
don't
that?
know that we got every single one, but they came in here and made a list and they did GPS coordinates, so we would not lose them again. So they're all listed by GPS, which kind of interesting. You just put an intersection down, but whatever. It's what they did. And I think I recall at the time that they were confident that they got most of them, but they thought there were probably some others that they didn't have properly located. So I'm gonna guess it's like a 90% list.
And we have that. We currently have that.
We have that. We paid the firm to come in here and do it. We had to,
It was a firm that did it.
we had to pay someone, if I'm not mistaken. Paul, do you remember budgeting for that? We had to pay someone to come do this because we couldn't do it.
Remember, it was paid for, yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's the only question, because that's gonna have something to do with the budget. Thank you.
All right, so let's move on to our village reports. Do we have any village board reports? No, okay. Commission reports, do we have any reports from commission members? Well, no, okay. I had just a brief update. I'll wait for Mac, on the FAA letter. Which is not much of an update, but minor update. Ed, do we have any village attorney reports?
No.
Okay, great. So we have to wait for our consent agenda.
Not installed the microphone in the restroom yet.
Okay, that's good.
Give them a lavalier next time. So.
Meeting's on hold. A recess, should I say?
Didn't they have to pass a rule in county to not allow commissioners to go to the restroom during votes? Because they used to do it all the time to not be on the record when they didn't want to be.
I don't know, but that sounds surprising.
I believe that was a problem in one of the counties we all know.
Okay, Commissioner Kennedy, I just wanted to give a quick update on the FAA letter. I'd made those changes that you had recommended and that we discussed here at the commission meeting. I provided them to
Were they AI approved?
I didn't put them back through AI, but I'm sure they would be. I provided them to the commissioner in North Bay Village and she's unable at the time. She's out of town, but she is going to be providing me with a list of resident or elected officials and other folks around the county that had been involved in it, so we can circulate it to everyone.
Cool.
But the updates have been made. I'm just waiting for that list and we're a little bit closer.
Send you the contacts from those two groups that were organized.
I don't know if
Did I send that, Shantae, did I send that to you to send to Jonathan? I could have sworn I did.
No.
I'll take care of that.
Okay, that's fine. I can start with those individuals then. So that was it. Just wanted to bring that up. So we will move on to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is Veronica still with us? Vero?
Okay.
No, she's there. No, she's there.
She's there. She's in the Zoom. Okay, so that takes care of the consent. 9, we'll move on to 10 ordinances and we will begin with what was previously marked as item 13B, the memorandum from our village attorney, because it is going to affect one of our ordinances. So, Mr. Attorney, if you wouldn't mind introducing the item for us.
Thank you. Late last month, I sent you all a memorandum regarding the changes to section 163-3202 of the Florida statutes that deals with building design elements. A little history is in 2021, the Florida legislature actually adopted the thing that says that you cannot apply building design elements unless to the one family or two family dwellings, unless you have one of the 7 exceptions. One of the exceptions was that you had an architectural review or design review board. Well, we don't have one. Now, I know what Gage is going to say, and I respect what he's going to say, but the fact is that nowhere in our charter, in our code, does it say that they will act as a design review board, okay? Or putting forth any of those requirements. All it basically says is that they will serve as a local planning agency. They will review variance requests and perform other things as provided in Florida law or in the land development code. But in nowhere does it say that they shall review building design elements. So what we did last year in response to that legislation is we adopted an ordinance that changed the name from the planning board to the planning and design review board. And we also added to its duties to include or to review projects for architectural and design elements. Okay, that wasn't anywhere in the code any time before that. So now the legislature in 2003 wants everybody to know that they really mean it, that you can't regulate building design elements in one family or two family dwellings unless you comply, you have one of those exceptions. Now the exception is that the architectural design or review board has to have been in place by January 1 of 2020. My opinion is that ours was not, and that therefore I don't think that you should be enforcing those provisions in the code that deal with building design elements. I understand what Gage is, and Gage sent a memo as well to me that y'all received, and I clearly understand his argument. I think it's a valid argument. The fact is that, you know, among Brad and Valerie and I, we don't all agree on what it is, but I just want you to know that you're taking a risk. If you decide you want to continue to, as it is now, and you're going to continue to enforce those provisions that are constitute building design elements, you're running the risk that somebody's going to challenge it. And if they do, there's a new provision in the statute that says that that they may be entitled to attorney's fees up to $50,000. So I understand the fact that we've always done it that way. The problem is it wasn't in the code that way. And therefore, my concern is that someone will certainly challenge it if they don't like particular, like the color of the buildings. If they say we want to make it purple, and Gage's folks say, no, you're not going to make it purple, they may challenge that. So the decision's yours. It's clearly yours. I just wanted you to be aware of what the risks are in continuing the way we're doing it, or backing off.
Thanks, Ed. A couple of things. That change that was made in, when was it, 2021, you said? Two, that's not like the ex post facto or nunc pro tunc or whatever the Latin phrase is. We can't do that?
No, we can't do.
What does that mean?
Like that it relates back to the date of the creation of the board. So that the change is made in the future, but it relates back to the original. It sounds like that's not an option here. So I one of the other things that I wondered, and now this of course relates, this is with respect to the amendments that we're working on with the land development code. It's my understanding that there are a lot of parts of the land development code that we are moving through that may not be affected by this, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we would,
Most of it.
right, yes.
There's the vast majority of it. If we get there this evening, I have those sections that we can discuss so that you can make a determination whether you want to keep them in or take them out.
And we could, this might be jumping ahead a little bit, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
We could, because this is one of the questions I'm going to ask you later. We could tonight at second reading, remove them and approve it without those things. Or if they affect the title, would that not allow us to do that?
None of those changes, in my opinion, will affect the title.
So we could
Title's
remove them.
broad
out.
enough
Okay,
that it doesn't pertain to specific
okay.
subsections of the code.
So for the purpose of moving this forward, we could vote this through tonight on second reading, pull these things out and still come back and address them. And if we decided to move forward, we would still have the opportunity to do another ordinance and do it again.
Yes, because there are other provisions in the code that aren't in this ordinance that you will need to address.
Got it. So we could finish our job tonight to some degree, come back and readdress it again.
Yeah.
After we have this conversation and decide our appetite for, okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And Ed, just one other question. The sections that you've identified, those are the sections that would be non-compliant with the new.
That's correct.
Okay. Well,
And again, there really aren't that many of them in relation to the entire ordinance.
that's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's specifically dealing with colors of buildings, roofs, and setbacks of garages.
Section 10.
A lot of, well,
Well, not all of it.
Well, no, not most
all
of
of
what
it,
we're
no.
doing in section 10. We don't address color in there. Color is,
No, but
I
it's
thought
in-
color was addressed separately.
you're amending 10.3.1, which is color of building. So the question becomes, do you take it out now?
You take it out now or leave it. I see
Right.
what you mean. Okay.
Or do you
We're not touching
do
it,
what-
but it's
you
there.
Do what you have on paper now
Mhm.
and come back and do
And undo maybe.
do a complete review and
I understand. So we
take those
we
provisions.
could take the steps that we think necessary tonight and then come back and look at it again and undo, redo.
Is there a deadline here for us to
Well,
decision one way or another?
well, I don't know when the next meeting of the Planning and Design Review Board is,
So we're,
what
Thursday night.
they're going to be charged with doing.
It's
So if
Thursday.
someone comes in, for example, or if someone comes in to Gage's board and says, here are our plans and specifications, we're gonna color this building purple. And he says, no, you're not gonna, or they say, I'm sorry, that you're not gonna do that because we're the ones who decide what colors you're gonna use. They can challenge.
even a
No,
bigger,
but we don't
even a
do that.
bigger issue is roofing materials, which is something that
Yeah.
we've been talking about
And again, some of these things, I think we're going to address this. I
That
think we need
always
to get
comes up.
past this first item so we can get to the second one. Some of it's kind of a moot point because it's not happening anyway. So I don't,
What's not happening anyway?
people aren't coming in and asking for other kind of roofing materials. They're all, most
Yeah,
of them
they
are
are.
coming through,
Yeah, they are.
they're doing tile and metal.
Right. But now it opens the door to shingle, does it not?
Not if they're not, when we use our structural thing, there's a structural component to that.
I don't know about that because they're just saying that he just said that you can't dictate what materials you can use on a roof, correct?
See, and Gage and I briefly talked about this before the meeting. What it says is the style or material of roof structures.
Exactly. It's not the roof covering.
That's, a covering is not the structure.
Correct.
So you can't tell them they can't put a shingle roof up.
You cannot.
Right.
But that's not structural, that's.
That's not structural. That's just the cover.
Well, something we need to talk about, right?
Yeah, the structure is, it's a
Hopefully-
flat roof, it's a pitched roof, it's a A-frame roof. That's the structure. Shingle, metal are coverings.
I'll defer to Gage's expertise when it comes to those types of things when we get there.
Okay.
But I just wanted to let you know so that y'all know where I think the legislature stands on the deal and just so that you can evaluate your appetite for risk.
So currently, in his next meeting, we could potentially be at risk. Depending on whatever comes before.
Yeah.
Depending on their answer to the person before.
Certainly with respect to the ones that are clear, right? External building color. If you decide that you're gonna take my advice,
Mhm.
then they can't impose that requirement anymore.
So anything goes, whatever color they want. Even couple colors. different
That's what-
colors.
That's what the legislation said.
That makes no sense.
Well,
Yeah, I have some questions about this.
you're right, but, you know,
I won't,
we've seen this happening for years and years and years now, where they continue to take away local options, local power.
Mhm.
And all we can do is react.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, if I may, I have some questions about this thing, because it sounds like we're trying to mixing these two topics together here. So regarding your memo, here are my questions. So the board has existed with these functions for decades, but it didn't have a name that the state now says it has to have that name. So it's a matter of its name versus its function.
No,
No,
it's not.
more than
It's the
that.
name and the function. It's previously not been in there for them to have considered these elements. There's nowhere in the code does it say that. That's what we changed in last year.
Understood, but they've been doing it. So it's kind of like, so this is probably a weird example, but common law marriage. It's like you kind of live together long enough and now you're married. If they've been doing it long enough,
Not
is
in
it kind of
There
considered?
is no Florida common law marriage.
Okay, but is there, if it's been functioning like that for decades, is there no legal remedy precedent? I'm not sure what the word would be to say this is what they've been doing.
I think
We
you'd have to
did,
get-
we put that in the ordinance, actually. You know, that they have been doing that for quite a long time.
Right.
But the problem is your code did not provide for it.
My other question to you, can the state make a law retroactive? Because what they said was, one year they said, you have to have a board that has this name and function. Okay, so we changed the name and the function. And then the next year they said, oh, but it had to be way before. Not the day we passed the law or this date that we're passing, that we want to pass the new version of it. They made it retroactive 3 years prior. Are they allowed to do that?
Well, yeah, until someone challenges it. And certainly this village isn't gonna be able to challenge that. I
It
think
just doesn't seem logical to me that
they do it all of the time.
it's like, okay, the speed limit is now 25 in Biscayne Park and everyone who we clock going 30 2 years ago, we're now going to go give you a ticket for that. It's like that.
Well, it's clear that the legislature does not want local municipalities to deal with building design elements.
It's clear that they want to make all the rules for everybody everywhere, regardless of how areas might be different. I'm going to go buy a house next to them and paint it fuchsia. My other question for you, Ed, you said there were 7 exceptions. One of them was the naming of the board. What were the other 6?
Give me a second. The dwelling is listed in the National Register of Historic Places.
Okay.
The regulations are adopted in order to implement the National Flood Insurance Program. The regulations are adopted pursuant to and in compliance with Chapter 553. Brad, would you check on that 553 for me? The dwelling is located in the community redevelopment area. We don't have a CRA here in the village. The dwelling is, or the regulations are required to ensure protection of coastal wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
The dwelling is located in a planned unit development or master plan community created pursuant to a local ordinance resolution or other final action approved by the local governing body, or the dwelling is located within the jurisdiction of a local government that has a design review or architect
That's the one we're talking about.
as of January 1.
So the one prior to that talks about, what I heard was if the community were a planned community.
Right.
Okay, what is the definition of that? Because if I understand the way Biscayne Park came to be, someone sat down and created this planned community of Biscayne Park back in the day.
I'm sorry.
Do you want to address that one first? Go ahead and address that one.
All right, 553 deals with manufactured buildings, accessibility by handicapped persons, the Trench Safety Act,
Okay,
thermal efficiency standards, energy standards for radon resistant buildings, building energy efficiency ratings. So none of those would have.
maybe something in there would be some, okay. So back to this planned community thing. Can you read that again?
The dwelling is located in a planned unit development or master plan community created pursuant to local ordinance. You don't have a PUD here. That's in, in some of the other cities that we represent, where a developer will come in and say, we want to do this planned unit development. We want some breaks from some of your land development regulations, such as maybe setbacks or something, in order to have a planned community. And
Said planned community, and then you said something else after that.
planned unit development,
Yeah.
or master plan community.
What's a master plan community?
I don't have any idea.
Okay, is it not defined in there?
Plan, yeah, it is, actually. An area of land that is planned and developed as a single entity or in approved stages with uses and structures substantially related to the character of the entire development, or a self-contained development in which the subdivision and zoning controls are applied to the project as a whole rather than to individual lots. That clearly doesn't apply.
See, that sounded like maybe that could apply, because back when Biscayne Park was created by who,
That sounds to me like something out in Holmes.
I mean, I know what it's intended to be, but I'm trying to make it fit us too.
Oh, yeah, okay, well.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, because this community was planned at the very start by, who was the strawberry guy? Mr. Griffin.
Okay.
He planned this community and blah, blah, blah. I mean, we were planned from the very start. He plotted this all out, whatever that word is, and said, this is gonna be this is gonna be Biscayne Park, and I'm gonna give strawberries away to everybody who buys one of these things, and up it went. But from the very start, this thing was planned out.
Sounds like a kind of lawsuit kind of thing you want to put together, Mac. It ain't gonna be us doing.
Well, look, it doesn't have to be a lawsuit. It's like, if it fits, then, look, they wrote the law, and if they wrote something in there that we can say that's us.
You'd like
Your argument, the problem
judge to
is that
say
you're
that.
still in kind of limbo era there with the risk assessment.
Well, let's let the attorney advise us on that. I mean, Ed, maybe there's something you guys could go look at a little bit further. It sounds like you guys want to look at this some more anyway. But maybe that's something we could look at. Here's how I approach things. I'm just going to be really blunt about this. When I'm going to get something done, what do I want? How do I get it? Not, I would like this, but there's something in the way, so I'm just going to step aside and say, I can't do that. I like to try to figure out how I'm going to get what I want within the rules, the laws, all the things that come along with that. But that's what we try to get done, is what we want. And the state's trying to get done what it wants. And if we can figure out a way to get what we want, then we should do that. And quite frankly, I'm of the mind that we should say to this thing, as far as we're concerned, we've had that board with that function for decades, and we're doing it, and we move forward and we wait for that challenge. Because if the challenge comes, we could roll over like a whipped puppy and give up like that if we wanted to, or we could hang out and see what happens with it. But at a certain point, guys, this is our community, and I'm saying, guys, I'm sorry, Veronica's our people. It's our community, and we need to get what we want. And we need to have a spine, quite frankly, and say, this is what we want, and we're going to figure out a way to get it. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, we tried. But to
There's,
just kind of roll,
yeah, but it's not rolling, Mac, in my opinion. It's just like short-term rentals, right?
Mhm.
We don't like them. We really don't want them, but they're here and it's part of and we got to figure out.
that's a very good example. And what did we do in response?
What everybody else did, just require them to register.
Yeah, but we did everything we could. We figured out the best, we took it as far as we could. And now we're going to talk to our senator about it and see what we can do. We still chase it down. We don't just roll over.
I agree with the way you're thinking. The problem for me is that, I think that it's a good idea to fight and to get more information and to do all of that. But in the interim, the question that I have, and I think the attorney has made it very clear, that we're putting ourselves at risk while we're trying to figure all this out, while we want to go and fight. I'm not about rolling over. I'm not about any of that. But are we putting ourselves at risk? And the answer was yes, we are. And so then the question for us is, do we want to risk it? Or do we not want to risk it? And that's as simple as that.
And how big is the risk? And at what point can we back away from it and say, okay, forget it then. We won't.
Well, attorney's fees is one of the bigger provisions. When you look at a statute, you're not just looking at damages as to the result of the lawsuit, but now you're looking at attorney's fees too, which is a larger exposure. But to your point, the point that you made about let's just let it work out. And maybe when the challenge comes, we'll decide, yeah, well, we want to back off because of the ruling. Well, we could very well be that challenge that results in a very negative outcome. Where we could get hit for attorney's fees. And I think, I don't know what part this plays. I don't know if Ed would be able to opine on this, but if we do something against the advice of our attorneys, where they unanimously are telling us that we are at risk by doing this, and if we ignore that advice and then get hit for fees, I don't know what effect that has outside of just the exposure of damages and fees, and I don't know what damages and fees looks like. I don't know what damages go with violating the statute, other than maybe specific performance and whatever. But that's the part I'm thinking about. You know, attorney's fees is something I certainly don't want to around with.
Yeah, you guys should know that.
You know that.
If an action was brought under the Burt Harris Act, okay, the village does have an opportunity to negotiate a settlement, which could include revoking all of this stuff and putting the applicant, in this case, back to the position it was in prior to imposing these restrictions upon.
We have an out. Valerie explained that to us last year, I think, when we first had this.
You do, if they're coming under that. If they bring something else, you know, just challenge, there's a new statute that's just out under chapter 57, the attorney's fees, and you know frivolous attorney's fees, right? You know, that now applies to cities and counties. You know, that if the court determines that, you know, it was an improper enactment of an ordinance, then they can get attorneys. That wasn't there before.
Now, a challenge under Burt Harris would also potentially invoke the new.
I don't think so, because
Would they be entitled if they would bring a challenge and, you know, we negotiate to put them back into the position they were previously? Are they, this is putting you on the spot.
Okay.
No attorney's fees that come with the negotiation.
I happen to be representing another jurisdiction in a Burt Harris claim. They changed their code, right, that affected a property owner. The property owner gives notice under Burt Harris. We meet with the city, and the city says, you know what? We're just going to put you in the same position you were in before, and there's no provision for attorney's fees under that situation.
So, devil's advocate here, hypothetically speaking, if we just moved forward as is and didn't change anything, we got a challenge under the act, we would have an out to say, you're not entitled to your fees or costs. We will put you in the position you need to be in, and then we can amend from there. So again, hypothetically speaking, it gives us the opportunity to kind of wiggle out of it.
Let me add one thing onto that. And if that happened, that applies to that case. It doesn't require us to reverse everything. It would then, we could roll for that person, right? And say, okay, we're not going to do this. We're in a bad place here. But we wouldn't have to change our ordinance. Another person could come and do the same thing. That thing would happen every time. We wouldn't have to, at the first time, say, change everything. We would just roll for that person. We don't have to change everything, and we wait for the next one to come. Is that correct, Ed?
Policy decision y'all are going to have to make.
No, but I'm saying legally, is that what would happen?
If you get bad enough, you know, if someone comes in and clearly shows that you guys are wrong, okay? The recommendation has to be, you got to change your code. You can't keep.
Recommendation from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Can't keep getting slapped like this. You know, once you lose, you lose. And
Have we, at that point, did we lose, or did we just say, okay, well,
then you're just going to be paying lawyers to represent you in claims.
Because that's the other side of it too, is if somebody were to come and challenge it that way, we would, in order to get to the point of settlement, we still would have to pay legal fees to fight it.
Right.
Which even just
Minor-
settling a case, legal fees just to settle a case, are
We
still
got-
considerably high.
Can we hear what Gage-
Yeah, Gage, if you wouldn't mind,
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. If you let me speak as chair of the planning board, who's actually part of enforcing this. So the knee jerk obviously is really, you know, like, oh my God, the sky is falling, which, you know, it has the potential. The ordinance being considered tonight, I'm just gonna go through this piece by piece. The ordinance being considered tonight does not propose any changes to the current code about color. And the reason I bring that up is I think that at this point, until we can get our bearing, perhaps a memo from our attorney instructing the planning board to not enforce these items specifically called out in this legislation, color, exterior cladding, which we've never done exterior cladding, material of roof structures, we never dictate. Is it concrete, wood, underneath the wood structure? I mean, it's not something that we even look at.
It just meets the Florida building code.
Yeah, porches, we never talk about porches. Porches are not really even addressed in the new ordinance that we're considering tonight. Exterior, structural architectural ornamentation, we've never addressed that. Location and architectural styling of windows and doors, that is something that we are discussing. That is on here. So that could be something that we look at. The location of orientation of the garage, we've never said you can't have your garage facing that way. The number of type of rooms, we don't dictate how many rooms you can have in your house.
Gage, don't you have a setback requirement for garages?
I mean, does this actually go beyond our setbacks? It actually nullifies all our setbacks?
Location or orientation?
I think they mean the location on the design, not the location on the lot. The way I read that, I didn't read that to mean where does it sit on the lot? It was, where is it located on the house?
Okay, because that even opens up a major thing if we're gonna now, you know, like dictate the setbacks, location, architectural style. So to me, that is, you know, the orientation of the garage. We've never done that. The number of type of bedrooms, you could build a 10-bedroom house here as long as you meet the other criteria within our code. Interior layout of rooms, we've never addressed that. The term does not include height, which we're addressing, does not include bulk, which we're addressing tonight, orientation, which we're addressing tonight, or location of a dwelling on a zoning lot, which we're addressing tonight. It specifically says does not include. So this stuff that we're considering tonight, and then it even goes on to say that we can use buffering and screening to minimize potential adverse physical or visual impacts. So we're even talking about, you know, diminishing views here in our code. So there's a lot of wording here, but I don't think it's going to affect us except for windows and color, which we can work out how we're going to do that.
Let me engage.
But for now,
I want to jump on that point before we get too far because I don't want to lose that thread. And on the points that he just made, is that something that you all would agree with?
I've got to defer to his expertise on what some of these provisions are, because I don't know what style or material of roof structures or porches. He says they don't do that, and obviously if it's not in the code, then it's obviously not a problem.
So
We're gonna have to rely upon Gage to tell us which of these are in the code that need to be removed and which ones can stay.
So then the recommendations that you have for us when we get to that point, did they kind of comport with what Gage is saying now? Or is this something that we kind of need to look at piece by piece when we get there? Because one of the questions, and I don't want to cut this whole discussion off, because I think it's important. One of the discussions that I want to ask the commission is, do we feel comfortable going through this piece by piece with only the three of us here tonight? Considering we're missing two of our commissioners.
I am. We have a quorum and we have business to conduct in here. We said.
I see Commissioner Amsler's got her hand up.
Can't come to meetings.
No, I understand. I'm just
all to miss meetings.
just wanted to bring it up as a point for us to consider. And I see Commissioner Amsler has her hand up, so I'd like to hear from her on that point. And Gage, I apologize. I didn't mean to break off your train of thought there.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yes, I mean, if this cuts off and you guys are three making the decision, I think you have a quorum. I'll rely on you guys. But in my opinion, there is a lot of unknowns still. I don't feel comfortable hearing our attorney kind of suggest there's a lot of risk to be taken. And on the other side, we are not 100% sure on certain things like structure. So there's a lot of unknowns to be clear out still. So I would want to know how we address those before making a decision. That's my only thing. I would want to know if it's affecting structure. I would want to know if it's affecting setbacks. Just because it's not there yet, I would want to know what's our, how do we read this in terms of this exposure that the village will have? Because it seems like that's where we're living at. So there is a lot of room for interpretation for what I understand. And I don't feel comfortable with that. So I would ask what the next step would be, knowing that we have this unknown in terms of time. I agree, Mac. I think we need to put some teeth into this. I also agree with the mayor in terms of what it means in terms of expenses possibly for the village if we do decide to take this risk. So again, I don't know how, Ed, how would you suggest to move forward? What would be, what decisions do we need to make today? I guess that's my question.
Can I tag on to something she just said? Because I like the way she worded that. Is there more language behind any of this, Ed, that we're not seeing in your memo? So for example, where you say, whatever it says about garage doors, does it reference other documents that explain further what's that mean? Or is it literally just the words that you showed us?
Well, it's the words that are in the statute.
And that's what you quoted verbatim. And there's nothing that you didn't
I've
show us.
only got 6 provisions that I have concerns about in this ordinance. I think that we can, with Gage's help, I think we can get through that.
Yeah.
And it may be that my concerns are unfounded, but based upon my interpretation of what the language in the statute is.
But my question is, there's no other language that we're not seeing here. Okay.
So I would
I mean,
have a
if he's saying that, we never, cladding material is not a problem. The style or material of roof structures, okay?
It could be made out of timber as long as it meets Florida building code, we would probably approve it.
If you look up, you're looking at the structure of that roof, it's those timbers. That's not the shingles on top of it. That's
So it sounds to me kind of really the only real thing that I've heard tonight is really the paint color,
That's it.
right? That's pretty
And
much.
possibly the windows, yeah.
And when,
Oh, and the windows.
And roof material.
Yeah, but I think roof material, we kind of figured
Maybe
that one.
we're
out.
okay.
So what's the deal with windows?
So before, I don't want to cut you off. What I'd like, I think what we should do, I think we should just look at these things. I think we should just move into it and look at it because it sounds very clear that we need to do that. So if
can Vero hear us well?
Commissioner Hams, are you able to hear us? All right.
Yes, yes, I'm listening.
Excellent. Okay,
Right.
because you're very much a
Sure.
part of this meeting when you zoom in,
Mhm.
I feel
I
bad
know.
that you're not, okay, good.
I know. Thank you. I appreciate the patience. I'm a little in the middle of the airport, but I'm listening. I'm following.
No problem. Thank you. So
And-
this is, we're talking about 10B. So can we do we have any issue just jumping over 10A and get right into 10B? Because we've been talking about 10Bs. Everyone okay with that? Okay. So let's do that. So Ed, introduce for us, if you could, the items that you feel are of concern.
Well, let me read, you want me to read the ordinance?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm jumping.
So we need to open this item so we can have this discussion?
Yes, yeah.
Read it first.
So, yeah, do we have I guess we need a motion in a second to, okay, Okay.
Down.
mine's not. All right, so, Mr. Attorney, if you wouldn't mind, we're going to address 10B now since we're already discussing it. So, Mr. Attorney, if you wouldn't mind reading into the record for us.
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending the Biscayne Park Land Development Code to preserve and enhance prosperity in the Village of Biscayne Park by modifying Chapter 2 definitions, Chapter 4 housing, Chapter 10 design and improvement standards, Chapter 11 accessory structures, and Chapter 17 fees, bonds, and charges, providing for repealer, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, providing for an effective date, and this is second.
Great, thank you, Mr. Attorney. Outside of what we've already discussed, are there any public comments? Okay, well,
I mean, if I'm allowed to speak during the
yeah, we'll Gage, we'll have you this is, you're very much part of this conversation. So, so we'll go ahead and ask for a motion and a second to approve the ordinance in its second reading.
Motion to approve.
Second? Okay, motion by Commissioner Kennedy, second by Commissioner Gonzalez. So let's move it into commission discussion.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you. It opened. The internet wasn't working.
We got it?
couldn't document. Now I got it, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so, Mr. Attorney, if you wouldn't mind, taking us through what you think we need to look at.
The first thing is an amendment to what you have in front of you on page 6 of 23, section 2.2.56, non-conforming structure. And upon reviewing this, we believe that we need a little more clarification on that definition.
And that has nothing to do with the
That has
state
nothing-
legislature. Is it something completely different?
Just
Okay.
something
Yeah.
we need.
What do you need to clean up?
All right, currently it reads a structure lawfully established and having satisfied all legal requirements for construction and occupancy prior to and existing on the effective date of the Land Development Code or any amendment thereto which renders the structure non-conforming. That really doesn't make any sense.
It's the amending there.
Right.
It's confusing.
I suggest is after on the effective date of the Land Development Code, you strike or any amendment thereto which renders the structure non-conforming. So the rest of that sentence, and add in which structure would, under present regulations, be prohibited, restricted, or otherwise not conform to the Land Development Code.
That makes sense.
Works for me.
Okay, we'll fix that before it goes out, but, well, assuming you pass
That
this
way, if we pass it,
as amended with that provision,
Okay,
right? So
anybody have a problem with that?
sounds good.
Just a quick question on that. Is it in accordance with the land development code that we're about to adopt or the present land development code?
but it's the one in effect whenever there's non-conforming structure.
Okay.
So if you have one now, today, right? These amendments aren't gonna change. I don't
Okay.
believe.
Okay.
This is really geared towards new development, isn't it?
Well, I think what it's
Well-
doing is it's saying that the houses, there's houses that are not conforming now, setbacks, whatever it is.
Right.
And if they do become, they have to, it declares them non-conforming. So I guess my point would be, is it the old or the new code? Anyway, I think you've answered it. I'm sorry.
Well, under these regulations, if it's non-conforming, it's a non-conforming structure. It can continue that way, until what, 50% of it's destroyed or
50% rule, yeah.
Okay.
It's just that or an amendment thereto which renders structure non-conforming didn't make any sense.
Okay,
Okay.
what's the next one?
Down to 10.3.1.
And now you're going through the things that you're saying you're flagging.
Correct.
Okay.
Everything else. I know we've discussed 100 times, and I think all of the rest of them are fine if you want to adopt this.
We want to adopt it. Okay. So 10.3
Style and color of buildings,
10.3 for what?
10.3.1.
On page 17.
Got it.
In its entirety?
No, well, it's entitled Style and Color of Buildings.
Just making sure.
We're not. The question is, do you want to amend it now to take out color of buildings, or do you just want to pass it as amended tonight?
Is there any kind of a loophole there that we're not saying you have to, it has to be a certain color, but what we're saying is that it harmonizes and blends with the other buildings in the area?
I think if you take out including exterior color, that you're no longer. in
But if we
jeopardy.
keep, look, exterior coloring is gonna be straight up, is a concern for me. I don't want people coming into Biscayne Park and painting houses fuchsia and putting sparkles on it. So, if if you keep it there, Ed, one of my question is, it reads, shall be of an architectural blah, 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 including color that will harmonize and blend in with other buildings in the area. Does the harmonizing part give us a way to apply this? We're not saying it has to be a certain color. We're just saying it has to harmonize with the other colors. We're not saying it can't be pink because it's pink. We're saying that pink doesn't harmonize with the rest of the village, so that's not going to work.
Is that the way that you guys apply it, Gage?
You pull out the
Whether it's
harmonizing
harmonized,
part.
yeah. Whether or not it's,
You don't have a palette.
there is a pre-approved palette, but it's a limited number of like off-whites and like light shades of blue and pink and stuff like that. And it's meant just so that people can get a color approval as fast as possible.
Not a requirement. It's a recommendation.
Not any
Recommendation.
recommendation. It's sort of saying these are, you don't even have to ask us if that's the color you're going to paint it, paint it. You have to get a permit, but you don't have to. even
We are
ask.
Well,
wading into
first of
some
all,
very-
we can't require a permit for paint permits, so we don't do permits.
Oh,
We
that's
do
right.
color recommendation now because they ripped out the permit part a couple of
Right.
years ago.
That's right.
So it's just, we're recommending a color.
And what if they say, no, I'm gonna paint it pink?
Then that goes into the code enforcement and, the color is not an approved color of the village.
We have to make them.
But you say it doesn't, at that point, you'll say it doesn't
Mayor.
harmonize.
Commissioner?
If I may. So is the idea that we're gonna go and review each one of the points and see what the impact of this is right now on second reading? If
Right.
so, okay, if
Sorry.
so,
Go ahead.
yes. Do you hear me?
Yep, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Again, I don't think this is the right opportunity to do so. We've worked hard on this ordinance. Everybody has. I wouldn't want to pass, still there's, the language on how we think is affecting it. There is no affirmatives on anything we've discussed so far on the 2 points that's been, there is no affirmation, it's how we are reading it. I would actually make the motion to postpone this and have the attorney come back, review in each item with the planning board, a kind of consent, so that the commission can make a vote on this. Not use this opportunity to workshop, given the circumstances of this change that goes beyond our hands. I don't think it's the right moment to do it. I don't think it's fair for everything we've done so far. I think, again, I would love to be sitting there. You get a majority to make this decision tonight. But I would also would want Olivera to be in. I think at the end of the day, again, there is a lot that's being discussed in terms of what we understand this to say. And given that, whether we want to take the risk. My position is I don't want to take the risk. I'd rather have the attorney investigate on each of the topics and come back in conjunction with the feedback from Planning and Review Board. And come back to us with a vote and decision given that. I don't think it's today a workshop sort of environment to do so.
Well, I think that's what we're doing right now, Vero. Ed has prepared this. Ed, you're prepared to go through these points with us. He's nodding his head. Yes, that's what he came here to do tonight. So what you're asking him to do, go back and research and come back and talk to us about it. He's prepared to do that. That's why that's why he's saying, I want to go through these 5 things. And he's telling us this is where there's a concern, but there's not a rule book anywhere that he can refer to. He has the language of the Florida statute to look at. Yeah.
Can I
Sorry?
make another compromise? Since this part of the chapter 10 is not in question, it's not something that we're changing currently in this ordinance. It actually is existing language.
Yeah.
Can we not make any changes to this at this point? And we use the attorney's memo for the planning board to not enforce any colors with the intention of the attorney doing further research on this exact thing as Commissioner Amsler is suggesting, but we go ahead with the ordinance that we already considered. Because it's,
Let me
again,
just-
it's not, has nothing to do with the ordinance that's being considered.
So let me clarify the point. What you're asking or what you're proposing we do is we use the memo that has been provided by the attorney to temporarily not enforce those points and pass the remainder of the land code development amendments on second reading. And then this will come back in front of us after they've worked with you to determine whether these. So we're basically asking what we're doing right now and here to be done outside of this, and then the conclusions be brought back to us for a
Yeah.
vote.
Instead of like Commissioner Angelo is saying, rushing this through on this last minute meeting, trying to do it, let's just
Won't-
pause
won't
on this
enforce it.
thing. Pause
Just
on,
the items that are in question.
in the question.
And
just
there's
a
only
pause,
two.
because it's not being, there is no,
There's only a couple. So
Okay.
we could finish this and then we can tell the board, press pause on those specific things. Don't enforce those things until we have a bigger conversation with Ed.
I think that's appropriate.
I think that's fair.
Besides the color, what else are, and the windows? you-
well,
Garage, the windows.
The windows,
Garage.
He's gonna go through. He's gonna go through here.
let's
go ahead.
let-
just, yeah,
So if I may ask, so does it mean that there will be another instance where we will finalize our vote on this ordinance?
just, no, so what's being proposed is that the amendments that we've made are going to pass through second reading, and what will be paused and not enforceable going forward until we address them are the items of concern identified by our attorney. They will
Off
then,
menu.
what's that?
It's kind of handled separately.
Right, kind of just handled separately, and then
Yes.
they will come back to us with a recommendation on what to do with those items at issue. And then we can decide if we want to move forward, if we want to amend them as they've been recommended.
Yeah, I would feel much comfortable with that.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that makes a lot of sense.
It's fine. So we'll keep moving through these points that Ed's gonna bring up.
Okay, so Ed, if you could just identify each of them for us. Okay,
Oh, sense. Gage's statement is well taken, is that we're not changing anything that deals with one of those building design elements in this ordinance tonight, okay? But the first thing I'm gonna
It
say
exists
is
anyway.
we need to consider whether we're gonna keep in color of building.
Okay.
Right? So the next one is 10.3.2.
Should we vote on these things as we
No.
go here? No? Okay.
no, I think what he's saying is we're not
We're
going
gonna
to,
change any of these things. We're
You just said, except maybe take out the color language.
not tonight.
Okay.
I think.
go ahead, go through them, please.
I think I got. it. Okay, roof design, Gage. This says no houses in the, we'll get to that one, okay? That's one of the ones I'm gonna flag.
yeah.
But right now, as the ordinance currently exists, there's nothing for you to determine. All right? 10.3.4.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question, Ed? So the violation is not that it's in the code, it's the violation that would be we enforced it. Yeah, okay, so we're not in violation because we kept something in the code. We'd be in violation if they enforced it.
Well, but he's not gonna be here forever.
I understand that. No, I'm just saying that's, the violation is not,
I
if
trust
we
him implicitly, but he may not be the.
heard me say that 1,000 times, none of us will be here. But my point is, we don't have to worry about keeping it there. We can just worry about.
But to his point, we have to fix it because.
Oh, I'm not saying not to fix it. I'm saying for now, we're not gonna be in trouble. No one can sue us because it's in our code. They would sue us if we enforced it.
It'd be the same thing if someone were to sue us under the act that we just choose not to enforce it, then we're no longer in non-compliance.
Exactly.
Updated.
Exactly. Got it. Okay, good. We're not in trouble till we do it.
10.3.4. What is your opinion on that?
Exterior doors, windows design.
What does the language say in the new? Ed, what does the language say in the memo?
In what?
In the new Florida statute, what's it say about windows?
Says the location or architectural styling of windows or doors.
Would be A.
Be on the nose.
And B.
And C.
Yeah, so, so my opinion is,
Not D. not D.
Or E.
that we would strike 10.3.4. And as much as we need it, it's something that is new, that is not actually in the code right now. It's.
What about if you just keep B?
You're not saying what style they have
But
to
that's a
be,
Florida
you're saying
building
they-
code thing right there, actually. D is actually,
You say B as in boy or D as in dog?
D.
D as in dog. Yeah. What about B? Because it says,
But it's better, my opinion is it's better to take out all of 10.3.
but read what it says. It says A and B are the same thing for different sides. All exterior windows, let's look at B as in boy. All windows on any street facing facade shall be of consistent style, type and color. We're not saying what style, type or color it has to be. We're just saying they all have to be the same. You have to pick one. You can't have, because what this avoids is that window is pink and it has, blackout windows and it's a single hung whatever. And that one over there is a different style, a different color. It's not saying, this does not say we get to approve your style, type or color. It says they have to be consistent. It's not the same as saying they're of this. It doesn't say all windows shall be of an approved style, color and type. It says consistent. You can come in and say, I want pink windows and I want them to be black glass because I'm a vampire, but the whole house has to be that way.
An architect, and I'm gonna say, I think we need different styles in different parts of the house.
But what you just read doesn't say that. And I'm gonna say it
Yeah,
does.
it's a consistent style, type and color.
No, but what does the new law say?
Location or architectural styling of windows or doors.
We're not telling you what style they have to be. We're just saying they all to be the same.
But that is telling them what kind of style.
Not according, look, here's the thing, when the law gives you these words, I'm looking at it, and to me, it doesn't say that. It does not say that. It says, our code says they have to be consistent, and that's not what the Florida law says.
Why don't we take it under advisement?
I say we keep it there and let it be one of the things that the board doesn't enforce until they look into it more. It sounds like maybe,
Well, my concern of that, and believe me, I'm completely on your side on this, is that the color part of the argument is that it's existing code, that we're not making any changes to it. This is actually brand new code that we're actually now
I know.
putting into the code,
Yeah.
which is in direct violation of the memorandum.
I don't think the
So-
law cares that it was an existing code or a new code. If it's in violation, it's in violation. It doesn't.
But
care.
you added this, or we've added this
Yeah.
because you were enforcing this
Yeah.
without it even being in here.
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
That's the reason so basically you're not going to be doing this at this point, I guess, now, right? So what's the point of having it?
Well, it's the same as what's the point of having the color thing in there? Because if we keep that in, the point is that if we keep them in there and pass it, they can go have more conversations and rank them out. And in the meantime, to Gage's point, they won't enforce this.
At what point are we going
'Cause
to,
we're not in trouble until we enforce it.
at what point are we going to remove the things that we need to remove? When is that happening?
Can we
Adjourn.
finish?
Yeah. Yes, look,
Before-
I think it's gonna be the next meeting to address your point, I would imagine. To the point of 10.3.4, I think that this probably belongs with the other points that we are not going to be enforcing until we have some more color on it. So.
So you want to say, leave it in and then we come back to it.
I think so. I personally, I would like to come back, each one of these that are being identified by the attorney now, I think we need to come back to each of them. Because.
They definitely have to be addressed. I mean.
Right,
it
exactly.
Can't go, it's not gonna
So
go
we're-
away.
So
So-
my understanding is we're going through and we're just identifying the ones that are at issue that are going to be considered later and that we are just not enforcing with the passing of the amendment right now.
Got it. Understand.
You can pass it and not enforce it. You're not in trouble till you enforce it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Calling 10.3.4, Ed, what was the next one?
973 New York, City.
That's Vero's flight's being called.
I think
Vero, they
before-
didn't call your
Yeah,
group
but-
yet, so hang tight with us, please.
Ed?
10.4.6, roof material.
Enforce.
So that goes to the semantics of, it says roof structures or roofing material. So that's,
And what this says is, this is a section that says this is structure versus the covering, this, and that's very clearly says, to me, this one's really clear. It says structure in the Florida thing. It's very clear, it says structure. And here, we're not saying anything about the structure. We're just saying that you have to show us that the structure is not strong enough to hold up that material. This is a structural integrity section of our code.
Ed, what is the recommendation for 10.4.6 in its entirety or any specific provisions there under?
It's only, I mean, it's. All of them.
Well, let's delve into that. I mean, this part of this code is meant for specifically for shingle roofs that are the houses that have shingle roofs. You know, other parts of our code say that you have to have tile to tile, tile to metal, you know, metal to tile, you know, so if we struck this eventually, it would only be referring to asphalt shingled houses, which, you know, in a way it would just, it would be limited to the effect would only be on the asphalt shingle properties. Cause I understand what you're saying is it says structure and we're telling here that you have to have an engineer to do the structure.
It's not about what this is not, does not have anything to do, the new Florida statute talks about the structure of the roof, the materials used to create the structure of the roof. What this section of our ordinance says, it is not dictating what the structure of the roof has to be built from. It's simply saying you have to prove to us that it's not strong enough to hold up that heavy roof. It's not, it doesn't dictate in any way the material used to build the roof. It's simply saying an engineer has to show us that it's not strong enough to hold up clay.
Yeah, I
This is
don't-
a,
I
this
don't
is,
see a problem with this one.
this, to me, there's no problem. with
And we
it
can go back and look
whatsoever.
at it.
You go back and look at it?
Like, I think, like you were saying, let's go ahead and approve it the way it is. And then we go back in and say, okay, what is the intent of the code that, you know, the legislative? Do we now need to address this as, you know?
Understood,
This
understood.
one's like cut and dry to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see it as a building. It's not a building issue.
Okay. Ed, what's the next one?
11.2.1.
Into accessory buildings?
Yeah, although it's not changing anything. The new statute says the location or orientation of the garage. And currently ours says permitted accessory buildings, which include private garages, shall maintain the same setbacks as the principal building.
Yeah, but that doesn't tell you the location. It could be placed. It's just telling you that you have
got
to
it.
have it.
Yeah. So this was the item that Gage had raised, the same argument that you're making, Art. So,
But it also does go on to say the terms do not include, hold on, location of the dwelling on the zoning lot.
Exactly.
So that
So
reinforces our setbacks.
that might be enough.
It allows us to use separate, this one's cut and dry to me too.
Right, 11, that's 11.2.1. Ed, what's the next one?
That's all I have in this ordinance.
That's not that
I
bad.
have a problem.
I thought we could get through it pretty quick.
That's only 5
We have a
items.
problem except for the color one is the only one that I think the board should even be instructed to stay away from for the time being until these guys look into it a little bit more and report back.
I mean, I'd personally prefer that this is the recommendation of the attorneys. It's only 5 items that we put pause on just these 5 items and pass we'll pass it in its, as it's written tonight. In that the planning board used the memo from the attorney to just pause on these items and then come back to us. And it sounds like a couple of them, we may not have an issue with, which is good. But the color is going to be a big one.
The deal is whenever it said design, I mean, it has building design elements. So I pulled it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So that would be my recommendation. So we take these items that have been identified, we'll pause on that with the planning board. Otherwise, we'll move this to move the second reading of 2023-09 to vote.
Public first.
We did open it for public comment. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
no, we did it.
I'm with you, Ed. I didn't hear it either.
Yeah, we did. And Gage was gonna step up in public comment, but I.
We don't need a motion. It's already been
The
made. a
subject
motion.
matter expert,
Vote.
not public.
I think it has to be a roll call. I think, unless you take your. unless you
need
take-
that rule.
Got ours.
Can he count that? Can she count?
Madam Clerk, can you,
I don't think so.
We need to wait for him.
Okay.
to be on the dais.
okay.
You guys hear me?
Yes,
Can.
you make your flight?
No, I'm still waiting. It's about to come in. So,
Good timing. We're
Um,
about to roll, we're about to call roll, so you might catch it.
so can you repeat, Mayor, please, the number in the agenda? Is this, I'm trying to open the,
10B is in boy.
thank you. The ordinance.
And for purposes of clarity, Commissioner, what we're doing is we're moving to vote the second reading of this ordinance under 10B with the understanding and caveat or carve out, whatever you want to call it, that the items identified by the attorney in his memorandum will not be enforced for the time being by the planning board. And just for your purposes, it's 10.3.1, 10.3.2, 10.3.4, 10.4.6, and 11.2.1. Those are the 5 items that were raised as issues of potential concerns. So we're just going to pause on those. As far as enforcement comes, they'll come back to us. Sounds like we've got some good feedback on a couple of them where they may not be an issue, which is great, but just
We're
for,
going to play it conservative, Vero, and keep all of those non-enforced, even though Ed thinks some of them are probably okay. We're going to be very conservative on those, and he'll report back on all of them. That's what we decided, right?
Yes,
Got it.
and this motion is as amended of section 2.2.56, that non-conforming structures that are.
that's right. Yes, we did amend the non-conforming definition. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have everyone. So Madam Clerk, can you please call roll? Vote.
Mayor Groth.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Gonzalez, Commissioner Amsler. Muted herself, one moment.
Did we lose her?
There we go. I'm sorry, I don't think you guys heard me, Mayor, right before you went into the roll call. So, wasn't there a portion of the ordinance that we had yet to discuss? I thought there was a portion still related, and I'm trying to find it as I am in my phone, to the visibility of windows. There was part of it that we had to discuss that we never discussed as a commission. So that's why I'm wondering, moving forward means we're bypassing that discussion and accepting it, everything as it is, except for these changes that are beyond us.
I'm not sure which provisions you're referencing. Our attorney is saying that we addressed the item that you mentioned. Is it are you talking about actual restrictions on window use, or are you talking about discussions that we've had kind of germane to this topic?
No, I'm talking about specific, and I'm trying to find, and again, my internet is not open, of course, as it usually works out when you need it. Let me just open it again. If you give me a second.
Well, maybe
I'll
maybe I
try. I'll give it a
misunderstood.
try. Yeah. Try that RTJ. Yeah, I will. I'll tell you guys about it. I mean, it doesn't compare to what you played, but
Yeah. No, but
you know, it's nice. There's not a bad.
it's not good.
Do you hear me now? Hello?
So
Uh,
You all agreed to change it to just diminish visibility, right? So we made that change.
Yeah, we made the change.
I think we made the changes you're referencing, Commissioner.
Yes.
At the last discussion.
Thank you. Yes, and that was my doubt. I didn't know that we actually went ahead and voted to this portion specifically. And again, I can't open the ordinance right now.
Sure.
So I'm okay with moving forward as it is. I think everything else we did have the chance to discuss, and except for this items that came up today. And then when will we discuss the next steps of this? When will we?
I think the understanding is that this will come back to us at our next regular commission meeting with these 5 items.
Yes. Okay,
So in that case,
Thank you.
the vote is to you, Commissioner Amsler.
then I vote yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kennedy,
Aye.
Mayor, ordinance number 2023-09, amending the Biscayne Park Land Development Code to preserve and enhance prosperity in the village of Biscayne Park, passes second reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, everyone.
Gage, thank you.
2 years. Thank you for us getting it done.
I was 6'4" when I started.
may I just say something? That was a long time coming. That really was a 2-year project, and maybe we have some little loose ends we need to still tie up. But this is a really big step forward for the village. So I don't think anybody got exactly what they want. I certainly didn't. But at the very beginning, I asked for a process that would get us to this point, and we did that process, and we squeezed out everything that we possibly could. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.
We're almost there. All right, so let's come on back to 10A, which is ordinance 2023-08. Mr. Attorney, if you wouldn't mind reading it on the record for us.
An ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amending chapter 18 of the Land Development Code of the Village of Biscayne Park to revise the definition of construction site in section 18.1, to clarify the screening requirements for temporary toilets in section 18.8, to repeal certain bond requirements associated with building permits in section 18.10, and creating section 18.3.9 to explicitly adopt standards regarding repair of public property damaged during construction, providing for inclusion in the code and scrivener's errors, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. And this is second reading as well.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Do we have any public comment on item 10A? Where's coffee? That part of the historical grant? No. Oh,
Janie Anderson, 11905 Northeast 11th Place. The big issue I have is the removal of the bond. Bond is proactive. It means from square one, this village has let the permit holder know, here's the rules, here's what we expect, and they've now got a stake in the game and certainly are far more likely to do their due diligence to keep public property from being damaged because, yeah, they want their $5,000 back. Now, to replace that with a far more convoluted process, okay, we start with the building official having to determine whether the damage is worthy of holding back on the final, and then we're going to have the permit holder responsible for the repairs. It's public property. I can't imagine we're going to have a homeowner, or many of the permit holders now are major corporations. We're going to find someone in the corporation to take responsibility. And if they don't get it done in the 5 days, now it goes into the code process. And what about all the projects we've got going on, several of whom are abandoned? There is no final, there is no nothing. I just think removal of the bond is an extremely bad idea that's going to come back to haunt us. Thanks.
thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
During our February meeting, the commission discussed several provisions of this regarding the bond requirements. And Commissioner Kennedy recommended that staff research the issue and bring it back to the commission, which is why it's here now. Our research determined that the bond requirement is expressly preempted by section 489.113 of the Florida statutes and cannot be enforced by the building official. And as we had that conversation, the building official wasn't enforcing it anyway, right? I believe our instructions was to come back with something as an alternative, which is what we've attempted to do in the section of that discussed. Our research found that several cities and counties, including Miami-Dade, have a provision similar to the one that's being considered, except it's mandatory, it's shall. And we had this discussion the last time. Can we put shall instead of may? We put shall in, okay? But of course, the building official is the one that's going to have to determine that the damage was actually caused by the permit holder, or else they're not going to be able to do anything about it. The issue that was also brought up was, do we want the permit holder making the repairs? I don't know if you want to change that to have village, I mean, there's a provision that allows the village to make the repairs and then go back against them in order to collect the amount that was utilized in doing it. So, but, is that what you all really want? I don't know. I'm asking.
And I think it makes, well, first of all, before we get to that point, we have to get a motion in a second to approve.
Motion to approve.
Okay, so
Ed, can you paraphrase that Florida statute that you just referenced? You said we can't because you. So just to recap what you said, because I would rather have the bond in there as well, but you advised we can't because having a proactive bond is in violation of a Florida statute. That says, I'm tap dancing here, Ed. It says things that sound sort of something like maybe,
I seem to remember that being the discussion that Mario had brought to us as well, that we can't do it.
489, 113.
I remember hearing we can't, but I don't remember the why, and I always like to know why.
Statutory preemption. Sounds cool, right?
Because it's in section 4.59.
It always feels good when you're citing a statute, Florida statute section. Sound like you know what you're doing.
Well, while he's looking that up, can I say a couple of other things? Sure. I'll defer. You guys go. It's just a three now, right? Is Vero gone officially? Oh, she's still there. Vero, before you hop on your plane, do you want to say something about this one? Might keep her company the entire flight. Anybody else before I go?
No, go ahead.
So, so I agree what Jenny's saying about the bond. I also don't like the fact that a stop work order was removed from this, because when something goes south, here we go, they're gonna address it now.
But I didn't. Yeah. Brad tells me that the issue with the bond was an attorney general opinion that said that counties and cities are preempted from that section, which deals with, when anyone wants to engage in contracting, he or she shall be required only to exhibit to the local building official, tax collector, or other person in charge of the issuance of licenses, current certificate, and to pay the fee for a occupational license and building permit required of other persons. So the Attorney General opined that preempted us from requiring a bond from.
So it limits you to collecting only those certain things in order to allow someone to work, right? And that would preclude anything else.
And because it says only.
Okay, that one sounds pretty clear. Okay, so then here are my other points. Janie, I agree with you in theory. It sounds like we lose this one. So 18.3.9, I don't have it pulled up. There's no stop work order in there. So here's my concern. When something goes wrong, damage has been made, and we're gonna say you have to go fix it. The only time people are gonna really take this thing seriously is when you say, you have to fix it, and until you do, you gotta stop working. So our damage takes priority here. Ed has to say,
But this is only for the final inspection, so there's no stop work order involved.
that's what I'm saying, but I would like there to be a stop work order when the violation, when the damage happens. My opinion, when the damage happens, I'd like them to be, and they're gonna be told, oh, you damaged something and you gotta fix it. You have 5 days to fix it. And if it doesn't happen, stop work order. You can't do anything else on this property. The site's closed down until you get this done. Now they'll take it seriously because we tell them they have to get it. They have 5. How does it read exactly? Pull this up because it gives them 5 days to do it, but then there's no real teeth in it.
Yeah, they can't complete the project unless they cure the.
But they can
defect.
continue working and working and working and doing all these other things and getting inspections and continuing along. All that happens is they don't get a CO at the end. They don't get a final. But they get to continue doing. In meantime, depending on what the damage is, the damage could be getting worse and worse. And they could be damaging more stuff and basically not taking our ordinance seriously, which we see happen all the time with contractors.
We addressed this, I think, at the first reading, didn't we? I thought we did, and I thought, I could be mischaracterizing, so somebody feel free to correct me. I thought one of the considerations was that we didn't want to delay progress and have these things get dragged out for months on end.
You mean
Issue
here in
of
our
stop
meetings
work.
or, oh, you mean?
Yeah, no, in the meeting, no, here, I remember, we had, because this is all very familiar.
I know, and I'm saying, I'm repeating, I'm saying I still have a problem with this.
I got you.
Because without that stop work order, they're just gonna ignore us. Because they damage something. The building official notifies them that they have to correct the damage within 5 days. If they don't comply after 5 days, they get a code violation. Nothing's making them stop working, and the village can then get it repaired. And then they can put a lien against the property. Work's still happening. They're not gonna take it serious. Contractors want to get the job done so they can get paid. If you tell them to stop, everybody pays attention when that, is it red? When a big red notice goes on the project that says, stop working. Fix this mess, and then you can start working again. So I just think this is another opportunity for us to show some spine to these people that are, they're, at this point, remember, it's not like they're failing inspections, they're not doing something right, they put a different color gravel on their driveway, they damaged village property. That's what this whole thing is about. They damaged our property. And there it sits damaged. So that's why I would like a stop work order added into this. The other thing, I'm not crazy about people repairing public property either. We talked about this last time and I got outvoted, but I'm just gonna say it again. So those are my two things, other than the bond. So I would like a stop work order added in this thing. We need to stand up, be strong with people and tell them, do this thing, do these things right, and speak a language that they understand. Stop. Here comes the voice of reason. Ed, you want to say something?
I'm just not sure that a building official can issue a stop work order unless it has to do with health, safety, or welfare,
We issue stop work orders for other reasons.
such as not compliance with the plans.
Yeah, yeah.
This is, I mean, we can put it in there if y'all want. I'm just, don't know if it's enforceable.
So here's the thing, realistically, right, I said this before and I'm gonna say it again. Unless there's someone there that visibly sees that the damage happened, there's no way for us to say that whomever did it, right? So it's nice to have stuff in here, you know, to have some teeth, just like we used to have
hear
the
you.
$5,000 thing that was never enforced, and never collected. This is something else that is not gonna get enforced and it's not gonna happen. So for me, I don't mind putting in whatever, you know, whatever you guys want to put in here, because I know that rarely, if ever, this is going to get caught in an event like this, because we don't have building officials standing at projects, watching to see if somebody runs over the median. So it's nice. And if you guys want to add stuff to it and, you know, firing squad, whatever you guys want to put in there, I'm good with it. The thing is, you know, realistically, guys, you know,
I hear you,
it's
Art.
not gonna-
I hear you loud and clear.
But I'm fine with putting whatever you guys want to put in
I
here.
hear you loud and clear, but when
Honestly.
we can, we should. When a truck, a concrete mixer backs into a tree and knocks a tree down, we need to be able to say, stop. That's all. So I think after the 5 days, if they haven't done what they're supposed to do after 5 days, a stop work order should be issued.
Put her in there.
Ed, if it was in there, I understand your concern about enforceability. It was in there as may, meaning it's at the discretion of the building official. Does that change? I mean, I don't think it changes anything as far as enforceability goes, and I don't know the answer to that question. But leaving it to the discretion of the building official, is that something that's or may issue, after 5 days, if the default isn't cured, the building official may issue a stop work order until such.
Make that one a may instead of a shall.
I'm sorry. Failure to comply with such notice after such period of 5 days may result in the issuance of a stop work order.
No, I think it should say shall result in the issuance of a code violation and may result in the
Building-
issuance of a stop work order.
And the building official
Keep the-
may issue a
keep the
stop work
citation.
order until compliance or until the default is cured. There's something to that effect. Is that,
Certainly put it in there.
is it within the realm of reason, I guess?
Yeah, and,
I think it is.
you know, if you have a logical building official, you know, obviously, it would also depend on, you know, if it's, you know, you run over the curb, a little, you know, corner, as opposed to knocking down giant oak tree that, you know, obviously, which is significant, right? So I mean, obviously,
That's a
you'd
great
have to
compromise.
use your little logic, when addressing stuff like this.
I think that's a very good compromise. They keep the other shells, but make that one a may, and it's up to the building official's discretion. I can live with that.
With that addition, the other issue I know we've already resolved as far as the village does have the authority to make public property repair or restored, so I'm comfortable with the language with respect to that issue. So with the amendment that we proposed, were there any other comments that we wanted to make on this item?
Barrow's there. I hear her.
Yes, I vote
Here's your-
yes. And I don't have any comments.
Perfect, we got her. Perfect.
Are you on the airplane yet? Or are you still in the?
No, I don't, listen, don't jinx it. I want to leave before midnight.
Jesus. Okay,
Thanks for hanging in there.
Oh, it's the ordinance with that amendment.
correct.
Yes.
All right, so at this point, I'd like to call for a roll to approve the ordinance as amended, as discussed here tonight.
Mayor Groth,
Yes,
Vice Mayor Gonzalez, Commissioner Kennedy,
Yes.
I believe Commissioner Ambler voted yes as well.
correct.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Ordinance number 2023-08, revision to construction code passes second reading as amended.
Thank you. All right, so that takes care of ordinances. Let's move on to our resolutions. 11B. Resolution 2023-45. Mr. Attorney, would you mind reading onto the record for us, please?
I want to do A first.
Did I miss A?
There's somebody on Zoom who's probably pretty interested.
It's
A.
the manager's agreement.
Where? How did I miss that?
Unless you
Chris,
really
don't-
don't want me coming down
Don't take
anymore.
it personally,
No.
Chris.
It's not on my sheet. My apologies. It's not on my sheet.
It's on the agenda, but it's not on the guide.
Okay, so in that case, 11A.
Resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, authorizing the appropriate village officials to execute the employment agreement between the Village of Biscayne Park and Chris Truitt, appointing Chris Truitt as village manager of Biscayne Park, providing for an effective date.
Okay, sorry about that. So is there anything that you need to introduce to us, Ed, on this item?
Provided all of you previously with a copy of the agreement, which is in substantially the same form as the one for the prior manager. And my understanding is that Mr. Truitt has agreed to the terms.
Correct.
Did Chris already execute or we were waiting for this item to come up on?
Prove it.
We are waiting
Okay,
for
just-
approval,
Okay,
but I suspect he'll do that quickly.
okay.
Yes.
All right. So do we have a motion, a second to approve the item?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, so let's move it to commission discussion. Do we have any discussion items on this topic?
Yeah, one quick thing. There's PTO explained in there. He gets 40 hours of compensatory time. It's effective October 1st. Chris sent us all an email saying that he's going to take some days off for some family obligations that he has. And I think he was asking for some clarification on how that would work. he gets, in addition to his earned time off that all village staff members get, he earns that 40 hours of compensatory time on October 1st, and he earns it fully, and he has to use it before the end of the fiscal year. So Chris, you have that time in your contract.
Yes, perfect.
Other than that, just a reminder to us up here that in his contract, it requires us to conduct a performance evaluation at the end of, within 30 days after his probation period, which will end on February 15th. If we do that at a regular commission meeting, everyone plan that at the March commission meeting, we'll be conducting his evaluation. But we also are required per our charter, I believe, to do a performance evaluation before the beginning of every fiscal year in the month of September. So I believe we'll be doing one per the charter in September, and then his first full performance evaluation per the contract between February 15th and March 15th.
We will be judging you frequently and often and immediately.
I'm a little scared now.
Nothing scared you before? That's what scared you?
Really. Can be evaluated on 2 weeks worth of work. He showed up. He finished the drive. He found Florida.
Good. All right, thank you, Commissioner. Do we have any other commission discussion for the contract? No? Okay, Chris, is there anything you want to bring to our attention or say before we move it to vote?
No, nothing additional.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, could you call a roll?
No, it's a
All right,
resolution.
resolution. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Here we go, Chris, you're clear.
Congratulations, Chris.
Awesome. I will see you all in a few days.
Oh,
Good luck with the move. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now 11B. Now, Mr. Attorney, if you wouldn't mind introducing it for us or reading on the record.
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, amendment.
Didn't we postpone this one?
Section 13, public comment, good and welfare, and section 14, public hearing.
Oh, sorry, I have the wrong number.
Commission meeting and agenda procedures adopted by the commission via resolution number 2021-07 to require public speakers to provide their name and residence address prior to addressing the commission, authorizing the village manager to do all things necessary in furtherance of this resolution, providing for an effective date. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. An issue was raised that nowhere, anywhere was there a requirement that people speak. We've now incorporated that into the commission's meeting and agenda procedures.
Thanks, Ed. Was there any other item, you had an introduction? for us?
and Ed, that is pretty standard stuff in municipalities, right?
Absolutely.
Very standard. Okay.
And all of the ones I'm familiar with.
Works for me. So, do I have a motion a second to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, any discussion? No? All right, all in favor?
Hi.
All right, Commissioner Amsler, if I don't give you enough time, certainly feel free to jump in and cut me off.
No, I'm in.
Okay, great. All right, so that takes care of 11. Let's move on to 12, which is old business. And the first item on here is 12A. Commissioner Kennedy, I know this has come up a few times. Is there any specific introduction you want to give for us?
Yeah, if I may. So, first of all, thank you for everyone's patience. There are a lot of residents, keeping an eye on this item who have some pretty serious concerns. And I appreciate them being so diligent. And every time it gets delayed, more people find me to talk about the issue. So, it's happened again the past couple of weeks. So we've had residents come in and attend meetings to report how cats are damaging their property and diminishing their quality of life. And we've had people come in support of cats as well, certainly. They're not reporting their property damage, but people are. So at prior meetings, we have made some pretty clear determinations that outdoor cats, pets, feral cats, stray cats, whatever they are, cats are damaging the property of other residents, and they're causing health concerns for other animals and human beings. The disease portion of this is actually codified in our code at some point regarding these animals. It's also established that cats kill billions of birds and other native animals, and in other ways negatively impact the environment, and the health and lives of the outdoor cats are in peril as well. The residents rightfully expect that those protections, they expect protections and that they're codified for other animals, but they're not for cats. So those are just some facts going into this. Cats are causing damage and they're bothering other residents. Now, we also know that our present code does not provide for the village to act. So we have no way to help residents whose property is being damaged. You heard of Kelly was in here again tonight. I met Kelly a couple of weeks ago. She contacted me after hearing about this topic. Neighbors down in her end of the village are having some really serious problems. And again, I had to witness the damage to her outdoor furniture, the damage to her car, the smell of the cats using her garden as a bathroom. So there's no way for the village to act. That's the whole point. The village has the ability to deal with dogs, but not with cats. So be clear that humans are the problem, not cats. This is not about the cats. Codes are written for humans to hold them accountable, not for cats or trees or cars or fences or property. People are held accountable to these things. So the only thing in dispute here is what we're going to do about this. And I feel strongly that we need to do something. Now, I'm going to address something before it comes up, just a little preemptively. We just had this conversation and it's worth saying again here. I know that there's no perfect way. If we were to do something, there is no perfect way to enforce it. The same way there's no perfect way to enforce the construction code we just passed or the speed limit in the village, or when we tell people to stop at a stop sign, there is no perfect way. But when we can, we need to. We certainly should. And when people's private property is being damaged and we can do something, we need to. We won't be able to perfectly solve everybody's problems, but we never can. We never can solve everybody's problems, but we need to try when we can. So here's what I'm suggesting we do. There are two things I'm asking the commission to do. And we have the power to do this, to write some code and to direct staff to enforce it when they can. The first thing is that we add cats in to the relevant code language in existing code where dogs are mentioned. So we have some codes about dogs. And I'm merely suggesting that that code be rewritten to say dogs, cats, and other animals. Section 3.25 says you cannot allow dogs to cause injury to persons, properties, or other animals. A responsible party shall be punished as provided in section 3-36 if the dog causes injury to a person, property, or animal, or while the dog is at large on public property or on the property of another person. We have code that very clearly says if your dog goes onto someone else's property or public property and damages it or hurts somebody or another animal, you're responsible. All I'm saying is include cats and other animals into that section of the code. That's all I'm saying. We have to prove if a dog did it. We'll have to prove if a cat did it. We'll have to prove if a bird or a snake did it. But we are getting reports of cats chasing after dogs that are being walked down the street and certainly causing all these other things. That's the first section. Section 3-26, unrestrained dogs. It shall be unlawful for a responsible party to allow, whether willfully or through failure to exercise due care or control, a dog to be unrestrained or to be at large in any manner or upon public property, a common area, ... It simply says your dog can't be off your property. Make it cats and other animals as well. Section 3-22, prohibited in parks. So ironically, this section of the code includes languages. It's language about animals spreading disease. And it's the very disease that cats spread, but cats aren't included in it. So it says dogs, but not cats. So all of these sections fall under Article 2 dogs of our code. But I think that section should be changed to dogs, cats, and other animals to allow for equal enforcement. That's all I'm saying, is that we are singling out dogs as causing problems that we know cats are also causing. Just included in the code. So when we can do something about it, when there is damage and we can do something about it, we do. If the code officer, again, it's all up to the code. We write code and then it's up to code to enforce it. That's the first thing. Second thing is existing code language regarding cats. Section 3-4, limitation on the number of dogs and cats. And it says the keeping of more than 4 dogs or 4 cats or any combination thereof totaling 4 on any lot or at any home in the village is hereby prohibited. I think, and it says open feeding that and here's the measure. Open feeding that causes a gathering of more than 4 dogs or 4 cats is evidence of violation of this section. And by the way, I should mention that I discussed this at length with Valerie and she helped me with a lot of this stuff. Replace that with open outdoor feeding of domesticated animal species is not allowed. So get rid of the 4 thing. Because if it's 1 cat, if it's 4 cats, if it's 10 cats, it's causing problems. So simply say outdoor feeding is not prohibited, is not allowed. Will we be able to enforce that all over the place? Of course we won't. We can't enforce any. We have people replacing electrical boxes without permits in their houses.
You're saying no outdoor feeding for dogs or cats
Outdoor
in
feeding,
your backyard?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
No outdoor
that's
feeding.
not-
no outdoor feeding, because you're putting food out that is attracting feral cats, stray cats. And that's what's causing the problem.
Typically, when you feed a dog outside, and I'm not a cat person, so I don't know anything about, how cats behave, but
Yeah.
typically when you feed a dog, they go to their food and they just eat it all.
And it's gone, right?
Gone. It's not
Exactly.
like they're leaving it around and to
Who's gonna
hang
know
out
that?
for the cat or for
Who's gonna know that?
the raccoon. Exactly. But who's gonna know you're feeding your dog in the backyard, Mac?
That's what I'm saying. And so would that get enforced? No, probably not.
Again, right, so you want to put something here that you know, and I know that is not gonna get enforced at all, ever.
And here are the other,
And
here are the other.
potentially upset a bunch of residents are saying, wait a minute, you're gonna tell me that I can't feed my dog in the backyard?
I'm going to tell you that we're taking measures to, number 1, protect the environment and nature. And number 2, we're trying to stop the damage that's being caused by outdoor cats.
You lost me at that one. Everything else, I was going with you, but at that one, yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But those are the 2 things. There are sections of code that apply to dogs that I think need to apply to dogs, cats, and other animals. And I think it's very simple. It's a very simple change. So when that's happening, when someone like Kelly, who was in here this evening, and trust me, I saw the videos. The ladies calling 10 cats come running in her front door. They're her cats that were just over in Kelly's yard, damaging her car, slicing up her front porch furniture and crapping all over the
So-
place.
So and listen, and I'm, again, I was agreeing with you until that
Right.
part of the backyard thing, but can people go after other people in civil court when their animals or whatever damage something that belongs to them? It seems like we are, and listen, I'm not against this. I don't disagree that cats are a problem. They scratched my convertible when I had one. So I understand the issue and I get it. But it seems like we're now gonna be the trying to resolve all the problems for everybody and it's just seems to be a problem. Look, I'll give you an example. So stray dogs running around the neighborhood, you can call the county and they'll come pick it up. They're not gonna come pick up a stray cat. They're just not gonna. They leave them. That you cannot get the county to come and pick up stray cats. So then it becomes a matter of, well, who's that, a stray cat? Is that someone's cat? Because you know how people also leave their cats outside,
Just
which I would never do if I owned a cat. I would never leave.
these are irresponsible cat owners.
Yeah, just go out and hang out in the neighbor, then you see
Don't let
'em
your
run
dog, your
over
monkey and your snake live outside.
You see them run over all the
Yep.
time and
They're dead on the roads of Biscayne Park all the time.
so I don't understand that,
Jeez.
how you can love an animal and yet, let it go and I don't
Beyond
get
me.
it.
It's beyond me how you say I'm a cat person and
So,
you do that.
Exactly. So, but it's a very difficult thing to prove, right? Who is that cat a stray? Is that cat belong to this person? So, so the question is civilly, you can go after people, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
If I have my neighbor that has, and on their cats are coming into my yard all the time and I'm videotaping it, can't you just go after them civilly? And has it happened? Are these people doing that? Are they going after
Don't
them?
know. I don't know. It's not my job to.
Because I mean, I
attorney.
think that that's probably something that's more realistic than this. And I get what we're trying to do
I
here,
think
but
people come to their municipality expecting help when they have these problems and
I'm all for it. Again, I'm okay with most of this stuff, other than the backyard stuff.
get but just to follow your logic, and I'm not challenging you on that at all, but following that logic, then you would be saying these other sections that apply to dogs, we should pull them out and let people just sue their neighbors with their problems with their dogs. But we do have those we have 3 sections in there that relate to dogs.
Let's be realistic. A dog can kill you, can kill a child.
My dog can't kill anybody.
Well,
He's 14 pounds.
dogs can potentially, right? Of
course.
There ain't no
Dogs-
cat gonna,
laws aren't
there
written
ain't,
about
unless it's a puma or a tiger, they're not gonna kill nobody, right? So it's a little bit of a different situation when.
They spread disease, they're killing birds,
No,
they're causing lots of harm.
I get it, but obviously dogs are way more dangerous than cats to humans, right? I'm not talking about to the wildlife.
Some dogs are.
Some dogs are, right? Not all dogs. But so I, but again, I wouldn't mind adding all of that stuff to the dog pieces. I don't mind it at all. So, but again, I think, if people were coming to me with a cat issue, I would be like, you need to sue them. Really need to go after them. You need to go after them because it's not gonna stop. And whether it's the lady across the street or the lady from behind next week, and it's just a bigger problem than I think that we're going to be able to solve for anybody here today.
I agree with that. And I would make that same statement about most of the laws and codes of any municipality.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Well, a question for the commission here and then a question for our attorney. But kind of, I guess, tagging on to something that Art brought up. We have in the code right now that you can't open feed for more, and this is just a summary. You can't open feed for more than 4 animals. So if you open feed and you got 20 cats showing up, it's a code violation. We've heard some of our residents say that they've had their neighbors. They haven't had their neighbors. Their neighbors or folks have been cited for doing this. And they've been cited again, or and they're still doing it. So hypothetically speaking here, looking at it, if you were to go all the way and say, you can't feed at all, and someone feeds and they get cited, what's going to stop them with this amendment from just continuing to do it like they're doing with the kind of amalgamation of 4+ animals?
I think that at a certain point, if they keep getting cited, they would.
Right, yeah,
Stop.
and I think
That
sure,
the process would work.
yeah, I agree with you, and that's the way that I'm looking at it. And I'm not saying I'm taking sides here, but that's just kind of practically I'm looking at it that way. If I was to put something in, or if we were to put something in here that says that I can't feed my dogs out back and I'm in violation, that's certainly something that's concerning me. I do feed my dogs out back, and I get iguanas, not for the dog food, but for other reasons, but whatever. The point being, I guess, is if we do add this and we make it so folks can't feed their dogs in their backyard while they're in the pool, it doesn't really change. It doesn't really change the effect of us already having something on the books that stops you from feeding when you're gathering for.
Here's the other challenge to answer that. Here's the other challenge, and this is an actual challenge that the code department has. The way it's written, they have to personally witness 4 or more than 4. So they have to see that. If they see 3, they can't do anything about it. So they've got to personally witness 4. Seeing 1 cat on the front porch eating food is easier to see and cite than, well, okay, I know you keep calling me and saying that there's 5 cats out there eating on the front porch, and that's what's destroying your convertible, Sean. Sorry. But every time I come by here, I only see 3. So I can't cite them because our code says I have to see 4 or more. It's an enforcement ability that 1 provides. And Art, to your point, if they did it in their backyard, no one's going to know.
I understand that, but I personally do not want to tell residents, you can't feed your dogs or whatever you have in your, I'm not going to do that. So, and another thing is.
You're cool with the other sections, but not.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. The other thing.
I'm sorry, Art, before you go on to the next one, what if that section only applied to cats?
Well,
What if it was more than 4 cats? What if dogs was take? I've never gotten a complaint with someone having open feeding of 4 dogs. I've never gotten that complaint. I've never heard of that. I'd be really curious to know if we've ever cited someone for open feeding more than 4 dogs.
But now we're discriminating against cats. But anyway, but let me just say another thing
So?
that I was just gonna say about. Huh? They're not a protected class?
Not a protected class. Thank
How do
you.
you
Ed.
know? Now listen, so another thing is
Unless they're
code.
gay. If the,
Right,
if the
so-
gay cat's gay, then we got a problem.
So code is another issue. We don't have 24-hour day code compliance here. We don't. So a lot of the times, these things are happening outside of our code compliance officers being here, whether it's early in the morning, whether it's late in the evening. So again, I understand
Art
the
and-
intent.
And electric boxes are being changed on Sundays when code's
Yes.
not here.
100%.
And speeders are going through stop signs
Yeah,
at 60
yeah.
miles an hour when the cops are over on Sixth Avenue.
Listen, I think it's a good idea to put it. Like I said, I can't support the backyard stuff.
What if it was just, what if it was for cats? Because look, the issue here is cats. No one's complaining about open feeding of dogs and dogs are damaging blah, blah, da, 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 or snakes or monkeys or rabbits or no one's complaining about anything other than the open feeding of cats and these congregations of cats and these colonies of cats and the damage that they're doing to property and people and birds and themselves, quite frankly.
Just to understand what you're proposing. You're talking about 3.4?
Yeah, 3.4.
You're talking about, right now, 3.4 says more than 4 dogs or more than 4 cats or any combination thereof, totally for those two. What you're talking about is removing 4 dogs?
No, what I'm saying is the open feeding section, the second line, open feeding that causes a gathering of more than four cats is evidence of a violation of this section.
It already says that.
I'm sorry, of any one cat.
Oh,
Basically it would say, it says the keeping of more than 4 dogs or 4 cats or any combination is prohibited. So we prohibit having more than 4 dogs, cats, or combinations. But the next line is the critical one. Open feeding where they see more than 4 dogs or cats or a combination is evidence of that violation. If you keep the first sentence saying no more than 4 dogs, cats, in combination, but that's not changing. But open feeding of cats is evidence of violation.
isn't that the exact same effect of what you're proposing? Because if,
Open feeding of more than 4 dogs or 1 cat.
no, but what we're saying is we'd be concerned that if we end open feeding, that we can't feed our dogs outside. Our dogs, our cats.
No, I'm saying just cats. Keep the dog part exactly the same. Just say, or 1 cat. Just change the number before the cat as 1.
Doesn't that kind of flip the intent of what we're doing to the remainder of the code? Because the remainder of code only talks about dogs. We're saying it should be all animals.
This is a
So-
separate section of the code.
I understand. No, well, all right. So the remainder of the discussion that we're having. So the remainder of the discussion that we're having is saying that these portions of the code read only dogs, but it should be all animals, which I agree with Art. I agree with this point that makes sense. That makes sense. But if we're taking this portion of section 3 and saying, well, it includes dogs and cats, but we're going to change that and say dogs are included. Now,
No.
aren't we just kind of flipping the
No,
intent?
no,
of
no,
the
keep the
remainder?
dogs there. It would still say what it would say, the only thing that would change is it would say open feeding that causes a gathering of more than 4 dogs or 1 cat is evidence of violation of this section.
So here's how I feel about this, because, obviously we're gonna continue to talk about the same circle. We're in a circle now. So if I'm a dog lover, I'm not a cat lover, never been.
I love them both.
That's awesome. But I don't necessarily like cats. I'm scared of them. They're weird to me. But anyway, so if somebody said to me, as a dog lover, you can't feed your dogs in the yard, I would blow a gasket. It would really piss me off, right? So now I'm gonna put myself in a position that I don't want to be in as a cat lover.
I get it.
Now I'm a cat lover, and my municipality is telling me my 3 cats, my 2 cats, my 4 cats, whatever, because you're allowed 4. I can't feed them now in the yard. I would blow a gasket too. But I understand, I get it. I know.
But logic tells us that's the problem. The root of the problem is that action of the open feeding. Yeah.
What do you say to the person that loves their cat, that is a cat lover and has been feeding their cats in a responsible way, whatever that means? I don't know, because I don't know how cats react. I don't know. My dogs, I call them in and they come in right away. I understand. So, but I don't feel comfortable.
You'd say to them, take your cat inside and feed it. You're a cat owner. Take your cat inside and feed it.
Inside and feed them too.
Yeah.
Want to, you don't have to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't, that.
Art, here's the reality. People are Are you seeing the people walking around putting food down? Oh, God, you don't see it. Okay, I could point to them. They're not in the room, but there are people who walk around this village with bags and cans of cat food. And they will walk up into your driveway and put food down right on your driveway, and cats come running for it. That's what's happening. That's what, and people are and people are opening their front door. There's one person who literally, with a ladle and a pan, bangs on it, and she has all the cats within 3 blocks trained, and they come running over bushes and cars. They come from, I've stood there and watched it happen because neighbors.
Illegal. That's
Hmm? But unless code's there to see more than,
So is this.
okay, but you see one cat eating out of a bowl, that you can enforce. And by the way, it's an administrative citation. So, okay, so let's wrap
Can
this
I-
up. So- Oh,
Hello.
she's still there. There she is.
Hi,
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Hey, so this is my last item. We're already sitting in the plane. I just wanted to be able to chime in
I love it.
before I let you all go. So I just want to be able to put my 2 cents. So I completely sympathize with everyone that's going around with the issue with cats. I can understand the damages to property that it seems to be from cats. I mean, although we don't have proof, they're able to provide us with pictures and clear damages that they can do that. I am pro leaving this to a civil matter. I won't support moving forward with an ordinance change at this stage. So that's what I stand. For me is a no in terms of the village getting involved, but more so supporting.
I don't know if we still have you,
She doesn't-
Commissioner,
she
but
doesn't agree to.
well, that's what I just wanted to clarify with her. Commissioner Amsler, if you can still hear me, and us, are you saying you're voicing opposition to 3.4, the open feeding provision?
I'm okay with.
Or all of it.
No, I'm not. 3.3.
Or the,
-20.
He's asking Vero. Vero, are you opposing all of it or only the open feeding part that I suggested?
An opportunity at this stage to get involved with things. We're still wondering if they can be enforced. And to be honest with you, again, this is one of those, that I think it's a neighbor to neighbor matter. So I would say no to this one.
Vero, may I ask you a follow-up question to that?
Yes.
Do you think then we should strike those other 3 code sections altogether that only apply to dogs? So we should let people let their dogs run loose, their dogs damage property, their dogs injure other animals and people? So
No,
we should,
I think we need to keep the code as it is. And what I'm saying is I don't support including or changing in any way to address cats.
very good.
okay, that's, cool. That makes it
Thank
clear.
you, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Commissioner.
Vero. Safe flight.
Thank you,
So-
guys. Good night.
So let's do this. There's some support for the changes in, just before I say this, 3.3.
3-25, 3-26, 3-22.
And as I understand it, Ed, these are recommendations that were made by Valerie, correct?
Not recommendations, but she said.
I'm sorry,
Where's 3-22?
3.22. No, that one's not on the email.
3.2.
3.22, that's the dogs in the park one.
Prohibited in parks.
Oh,
That one's not on the email that we had received.
yeah, I don't have.
No, it's not. I did the same thing. It's not in the email. Only the first one.
But I'm sorry, so do you have it, Mac, 3.2, 3-22? Read that.
3-22 is prohibited in parks.
What, dogs are prohibited in the park?
Yep.
Okay, so just add cats are prohibited in the park.
Cats and other animals is,
I just think it should be dogs, cats, and other animals in 3-25, 22, 25, 26.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
was a recommendation, or was that's the understanding that was what was asked of Valerie when this was made?
You just cited to the fact that these are our existing provisions, and then it was up to you all to decide how you wanted to change.
She didn't recommend this and didn't mean to characterize it as such.
Well, so and just Well, just by way of example, in the email, it's sample code language. This is language.
That was from other municipalities.
Correct, and but that in effect basically addressed no dogs or cats shall do these things that are very similar to what we're proposing to change. Okay, I just wanted to be clear that was kind of the conclusion of the email that we had received. Not to put words in Valerie's mouth, she's not here to defend herself, so we can say whatever we want.
Lucky her.
And she's not listening either.
Perfect,
Lucky.
even better. Okay. So then, what I would say at this point, what I would propose, is moving ahead with the changes as recommended to include for the provisions that we pointed out, 322, 325, and 326. Okay, to be updated to not just be dogs, but to include cats and other animals. And not making the recommended changes to 3.4. So I think that's what I'd like to put to vote now.
Well, they just needs the consensus and then he'll bring it back to us and we'll start the code
Yes,
process.
you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yes, he does.
So
So
you guys agree with me? We should move forward? Okay, listen, I really appreciate it. I know it's not perfect, or trust me, I know. But I need to do something to try to help things be better. And when we have people who, very expensive cars getting damaged, all of it, you heard it. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
of course.
Okay.
So, Mr. Attorney, that'll be the direction that we ask you to take from here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Understand.
Great. Okay, having resolved 12A, let's move to 12B, the metal roof issue. Commissioner Gonzalez, would you like to introduce the item for us?
My mic is ready. I went around the village, took some pictures of some existing homes. So the issue with metal roofs, guys, here, and this was what was brought to my attention. Hold on a second. I'm trying to figure out how to get this stupid thing to share. There's a picture I wanted to share real quick. Yeah, got that part. Host disabled participant sharing screen. Oh. Okay, let's see here. Yeah. Anywho, we'll get to it. But in the interim, let me just tell you guys kind of the thinking here. So there's two parts to this. First, currently, as the code is written, and I think Gage can attest to this, there's an issue with the way it was written, right? There's a little bit of a gap situation. We've had 2 incidents recently where the code wasn't written in the correct manner. And if this is something that we want to continue, we're going to need to address that because it's not fair to just because of a certain level of slope, you can do it, but you can't do it. So that's one thing that we need to address and we need to fix.
Want to pull it up in Muni code.
No, if you have,
I'll find it.
or you can look at, you can look at it that way, or you can just look at, for Jared's email, and that was all in there. So the other thing was, that, as you guys know, we allow, tile roof, we allow concrete tile roof. We don't allow, let me be specific because Gage likes to get mad at me at this. We do not allow shingle roofs. But we do allow shingle roofs if an engineer comes with a letter and says the weight can't be supported.
Not exactly right, but sort of.
Well, yeah, there's exceptions.
Only re-roofing an existing shingle roof.
Correct,
I could not downgrade to a shingle roof.
correct,
By
right.
that letter.
But if I get an engineer and he says structurally my roof can't support a heavy roof, I'm allowed.
You have a
So,
current shingle roof.
no,
Only if you currently.
I don't
have a
believe
shingle
so.
Roof, can you do that? I have a concrete tile roof. I and say my roof won't support a concrete tile roof. Well, there's one on there.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
Only, so it's a very, very, very small group
Okay.
of.
all right. All right. So, but the point is that, you know, we don't allow, we don't, we don't require tile roof to have overhang. For that very small group of individuals that are allowed to have shingle roofs, we don't require them to have overhang. So one of the questions that I've asked and I've been asking and no one has been able to answer, and I finally kind of got an answer, was what is the cost for for folks to add these overhangs to if they want to put in a metal roof? So I got a range anywhere between 10 to 20% of the actual cost of a roof. Right? So if it's $100,000 roof, you're going to add another maybe $20,000 because of the size of the home, right? So, you know, obviously talking to different people in the village and getting different people's perspective on metal roofs, it seems to me, from my perspective and from the information that I've gathered, that there was a small group of folks that wanted to allow metal roofs. And then there was a huge opposition to metal roofs. I've heard it from from different people. The village was only designed to have tile roof. Well, I don't know what that means because, you know, the village was designed, you know, back in the 20s and 30s, we didn't have solar panels, but now we're adding solar panels. So times change, things change. But so the question that I'm posing to everybody here, and again, I don't have a horse or a cat in the race, is it fair, right, to require individuals that are trying to put in a metal roof to get these overhangs, which is a significant, in some cases, a significant cost, an added cost that wouldn't be there. And my understanding, I don't have a metal roof, but my understanding is that they're expensive as is, right? But sorry, but I went in a different direction. So back to, there was a small group of folks that wanted metal roofs. There was a big opposition to metal roofs in the village. And it seems to me that from what I've gathered and from what I've understood, that the bigger, larger group that had more political pull, seems to me that they wanted to make it as difficult as possible to get metal roofs put into their. Okay, well, listen, it may be I'm just telling you from what I got, what I've understood. Okay, well, but
I'm gonna hear him finish.
okay, so anyway, so back to, and listen, I'm not saying that this is the right view. I'm just telling you that this is what I was told. So whether that's true or not, I wasn't there. And again, so the question that I'm posing, and this is just this question is it because it's simply an aesthetic, it's for simple aesthetic purposes, right? So is it right that we're requiring this for metal roofs, right? And this additional cost to residents because some folks feel that it's aesthetically pleasing, or is it not? So that's the question that I pose. You know, I went around the village and I took some pictures of homes. I don't know, for whatever reason. I found one beautiful home down in Miami Shores that has no overhang and a metal roof, and it looks absolutely stunning. I don't know why I can't share it, but anyway, so that's the question. And again, I don't have a horse in the race, and so whatever you guys think, that's all there is to it.
Want to go first?
Look, I'm open to the idea of amending what's in there. I mean, I've seen modern metal roofs and I quite like them. You can get them in any different color. It's not like it's like a a shiny chrome anymore, not metal. Look, when I heard metal roof for the first time, I thought it was like inside of a tin can. But it's my understanding that that's not correct.
Oh, no, they're standing seam roofs. They're
Yeah,
very expensive.
there's a house right next door to ours that just got a metal roof and it looks similar to this design.
that's the argument is simply aesthetics. But as with aesthetics, it comes a significant cost to homeowners, right? So then that's the question. So
I don't know the history of it. I mean, I'm open to the idea of revisiting it. But if there's something specific, you'd like
so,
to bring up,
okay.
Commissioner?
I like the way it's written, except for that gap needs to be taken out. If we just close up that gap, I'm completely happy with it. I am really surprised that an ordinance got through a committee, a board, a commission, and an attorney that works at a law firm with a bunch of other attorneys. Not this attorney, Brad, pre you, wasn't me, wasn't Brad. I just can't believe that it got through that many people, quite honestly. So that's my first comment. But this was vetted. This wasn't, this whole political thing that you heard, I'm not certain about all that. I'm really not certain about all that because I talked to a lot of the players that were involved in it, and this village took it very seriously. And I don't think it was an us versus them kind of thing at all from what I heard. Not only did it go through the planning board or whatever it was called back then, but a separate committee of residents was created to look into this issue. And they spent a lot of time and there were public workshops and hearings. This was fully vetted. This wasn't something like some big bad commission came in here and said, we're gonna make them put overhangs on. No, it was talked about. It came from a resident. A resident is the one who tried to say, can we do something with this? And then they worked out a process that went on for how long? A year. And they worked through a process and came to this conclusion. And I think, we kind of need to respect that, except also recognize there's a mistake here and we need to fix that. Now, in terms of what it accomplishes, forget that house. When you take the average Biscayne Park house, one-story house, and you put a metal roof on it and with no overhang, to me, it looks like a trailer.
But to me, and I don't disagree with you that it doesn't look good no, it doesn't. It's not that it doesn't look good. It just doesn't look finished.
Doesn't look finished,
Yeah.
and it doesn't metal roofs. And here's where I'm going to differ from some of the people that may have been involved on this.
Mhm.
Don't yell at me. Metal roofs are not appropriate for as many house styles as people want to pretend they are. So a metal roof does not belong on every style of house.
No.
And when you put it on some house styles, it makes that house look like a trailer. It makes it look like a shipping container.
But in my opinion, also, if you look at some tile roofs that don't have any overhang, they also look crappy. Because
Some of them don't look-
they also look unfinished, right? So what I think a compromise could be, and again, we're just in a basic discussion form here, is that when you place gutters, nice gutters in these homes that are, that don't have overhangs, whether it's a tile or whether it's a metal, then you have more of a finished look. My main concern is the
Most people
additional
don't put
cost.
gutters up, though.
What's that?
Most people don't put gutters up. I think more houses
Oh, but I
have
mean,
gutters than do.
putting gutters up is gonna be cost you maybe $1,000, $2,000, well, $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000, as opposed to $10,000, $20,000. Whereas
Saying
the
require them
cost,
to put gutters on to make it look more finished.
yeah, well, to me, it looks more finished when you put.
I see what you're saying. By more finish, it covers up that sort of raw open
Yeah,
edge
exactly.
of the tiles. But tiles are designed to have that open edge look on them. So whether the open edge is extended out 18 inches or up close to the building, I don't think it makes a difference because that's how tiles are designed. So I don't think that's an apples to apples kind of comparison. But the metal roofs, I wish we were more restrict. If I were going to do it, if I personally were going to get my fingers in there, we would restrict metal roofs to certain styles of homes. And we'd be a little more restrictive, but we're not. So I'm not suggesting we do that. But I think having that overhang is a perfectly reasonable request, and it is an aesthetic choice. I clearly see it as being an aesthetic choice. And that's what our land development code is written to do. It's in the very first paragraph of the land development code that the village shall write codes that improve the aesthetics of the village. That's what it's there for. It says it right in there. So we do make aesthetic choices. People don't like to hear that you just want things to look good. It's like, well, yeah, that's what our job is actually. And in part, so
You're okay with the additional costs as well?
yes,
You're absolutely
because
fine with.
look, because when someone upgrades to metal roof, they are in many many multiples, increasing the cost of their roof already. It's not even.
I don't know.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
it significant?
yeah,
As opposed to tile?
yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
I have quotes for my home
yeah.
because come to find out, I don't know if I'm pleading the fifth here. I have tile on my roof, but come to find out, they're not supposed to be there.
Why?
Because it's a flat roof. There's not a high enough pitch
Oh,
for the tile. I don't know when the roof was done, long before I bought the house.
Doreen, are you listening?
That's why I'm saying I'm pleading the fifth. Off the record.
Yeah.
From what I understand, from every roofer that has come to my home
Hmm.
has said, we cannot put tile roofs on your house anymore, which
Because of the slope.
which hurts because I like them. I like them a lot. I think it's a great aesthetic. He said to me, and everyone that has come to me to give me a quote said,
More than one roofer.
correct.
Okay.
I think we've had 5 or 6
Okay.
has said it's either the asphalt or it's metal. That's it.
Right.
Those are my options to be code compliant. I only have 2. We don't want the asphalt. We just don't like the way it looks, but the metal one, similar to the one that Commissioner Gonzalez put up.
And it's the last roof you'll put on your house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, as far as cost goes, I think the metal was probably maybe another, I want to say 6 to 10,000.
So it wasn't like,
It wasn't significant. I mean, it's material, but it's not doubling the cost of the roof. I think the point being is that they've come down to the point where they're more realistic option for folks that have roofs that come to find out I can't put tiles back on. This doesn't really address the point. I'm trying to say I have these.
I understand.
Right, the situation.
Frankly, the houses without overhangs, this isn't my business, but it also invites water to run down the face of the building. So I've never understood a house in Florida with all the rain we have, not having an overhang to direct water away from the building. I've never quite understood that anyway, but I'm not an architect, so.
We're not yet. Not yet. We're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it.
what kind of?
I have,
We do have an overhang, full disclosure, by the way.
I have a low slope roof too, and I do remember we were limited to certain concrete tiles. They were the flat ones, not the.
The barrel, the
And
barrel.
That may be the.
That's what we want.
So, but what kind of estimates are you looking at? What kind of range are you looking at? 50, 60?
Around 20,
What are you, in tiny house?
it's a small house, 20 to 30, like low 30s, like 32-ish.
So,
Concrete tile?
No, nobody will quote us for
Oh.
concrete tile.
So-
This is for metal.
Gotcha.
Well, metal's not the lower end, the asphalt's the lower end. The asphalt's already around like the 20 range.
30, so
Yeah,
30.
metal's not a
About.
$1,000.
Yeah, so that's not a significant amount. So you're looking at about another, if you didn't have an overhang, another $6,000. I don't know how you would feel about having to
I
pay.
mean, look, when you're spending any type of money, I mean, an additional cost is certainly something that's concerning. And
So-
and again, full disclosure, we have the overhang, so I wouldn't need to worry about it.
So to-
But
So to wrap this up, I just
Yeah.
wanted to bring this to you guys' attention. The idea was to bring it to your attention, see how you guys felt about it. Obviously, we weren't gonna make any kind of decision. We would send it back to Gage and to them to discuss and to come back to with us with recommendation. My biggest concern again is the additional cost to homeowners that I think is, again, I had a very hard time trying to get somebody to give me an idea of what that cost would be. But it's somewhere between 10 to 20% of the cost of the roof, depending on the size of the home. I do have a problem with that because I don't think it's fair. That, but, I just wanted to see how you guys thought about it. And, like I said, I don't have a horse in the race and a dog in the fight.
so maybe we
Add in the
can
fun.
do this. All inclusive. So maybe we do this, maybe we ask the planning board to look at it. I mean, the gap for one thing, certainly a proposal on how to reckon. Okay, so maybe.
Gap needs to be addressed regardless.
Well, maybe this for the planning board, when you look at it and you send the memo up to address the gap, if you could look at the overhang issue again, if there's any, if there's no recommendation that you'd make, that's fine, but maybe it's just something you could look at and include in that memo, and it would give us some substance with which to discuss what the next step would be.
Gage, are you okay with that 10 to 20% additional cost? Is that something that you've heard or,
I wanna,
but you've never heard any cost or any particular cost? Okay. No, I understand. I just wanted to know if you had heard, because I want to make sure that range is is something that's realistic.
Let me ask another question, Gage.
Gage, you want to
What,
up there for us, please? Thank you.
Gage, what percentage of people who come in for metal roofs change their mind when you tell them they have to put an overhang when they didn't realize that? When they come in and say, we're here for a permit for a metal roof. And you say, well, your plans don't include the overhang. And they say, oh, we didn't know about that. How many of them then say, no, we're not doing a metal roof because of the price difference they find out? Or are they what percentage of them are moving forward with their metal roof and adding the overhang?
But they
Forget
don't
the
know-
ones that have the overhang,
Wait, if they
already.
don't know at that point, they wouldn't know what the cost is.
but they'll come back. And
Yeah, they would.
so forget homes that have an overhang already. Of the homes
I
that
would
come
say
in,
there's been a handful of people that have decided to proceed with doing overhangs. That have the situation where they don't have overhangs. Most people, when they relook at it, they will decide to go with a tile roof or
Mhm.
something. So I don't know, have a percentage of what it is, but
do you think more of them are going tile than staying with the metal and adding the overhang?
yeah, I mean, they just follow our code. I mean, it's the reason we have codes is that. If you allow me, Mayor, I mean, the planning, this was something that was a year in the making. And it's just, I'm sitting over there because I think about all the work and time and effort that was put in by the people 10 years ago when we did this. And now, like, all of a sudden, knee jerk, let's just go ahead and change it. And I just think about all the people that actually put in we did a lot of work on this. This is not something that we came to just, oh, let's change it, and, the code that we have was a compromise for the people that did not want metal roofs. And the people that did want metal roofs is how do we come to a consensus of what is considered an appropriate metal roof in our village? So.
Can I ask about,
Yeah.
sorry, I don't
Sure.
mean to interrupt, but can I ask you approximately, 'cause I'm not familiar with the process, when this happened, approximately when was it that process?
I believe this was all in the 2011, 10, 11, 12 timeframe. I have all the code review stuff saved on my computer. I could probably pull up all the. agenda.
That, I mean,
The
as
workshops
funny as
that
that
we
may
did.
sound, it might be helpful to
Yeah.
get a better understanding of where it came from, because look, I was still in law school.
Yeah.
I wasn't down here. I'd be interested in
Yeah.
just
And-
taking a look
and-
at it.
And just.
And just seeing what he said, that he might have some information about where this kind of all came from, what the genesis was, what the backup was, what the people were saying. I'd be
Those were
interested
the
in just
genesis.
looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line, the thing is we didn't allow metal roofs, and I was one of the ones that actually was against metal roofs. Okay, but we were tasked, the Susies are the ones that came in and said, we'd like to get metal roofs, and we were tasked by the commission at the time to consider it. So we sat down and we worked. And we had workshops, we had architects come in, we had realtors come in. We sat here and over there in the rec center and had so many meetings where we talked to people and listened to people. And we came to a consensus of what we should do. And so I changed my opinion on letting metal roofs in the village because of what the work that we did. But realizing that not every house in the park should have a metal roof, that
Sure.
they wouldn't look good.
So I
So-
understand from what you've been telling me, I didn't know this coming
Yeah.
into it. I understand there was a lot that went into this, and I can appreciate that. So maybe Commissioner Gonzalez, maybe the path forward would be have the planning board come forward with the memo to fix the gap. And if you could provide us whatever backup you have. So I don't know, Commissioner Kennedy, how familiar you are with it. I'm not at all.
Familiar. with-
So he may already know, he may have the understanding. I'd like to see it if you have it. It might be helpful in getting a better understanding of where it came from. And what the opinions were. I'd just be interested in reviewing it. So
Oh.
maybe the best thing to do going forward is to, again, get the gap memo and then provide us with the information you have about what happened, 10 years ago on it. And then we can take a look at it and see if maybe that satisfies the question that he's posing.
I'm already satisfied, guys. Again, I don't have a horse in the race. This is not about that. This is just asking a question of whether it's fair. Because again, this is this is simply an aesthetic reason. There's no other reason other than aesthetics, right?
Yeah.
We discussed
So
it, you and I.
color, so's
Exactly,
roof tile.
exactly,
There's-
exactly.
we
So,
have aesthetic.
right, but for me to paint my house pink or paint it yellow, there's no cost associated with that. There is a cost associated with this. So that was the only question. If you guys are good with it, let it be.
Well, fix it. Fix it and let it ride.
Fix it.
Fix the gap.
Fix the gap.
Oh, no, the
gap,
gap.
no, the gap.
Gap,
That's
Yeah, no,
different-
no, I'm
different
talking about,
discussion.
I'm talking about the other stuff.
So I would appreciate.
I would
the
gladly
insight.
do a memo, give me some time. It's
Yeah, of
summer
course.
vacations and things like that.
Just to
you know,
take a look at it
for-
for my own benefit. I
Give you a little history of this because,
Yeah.
you know, again, I guess one of my reactions is just that it's knee jerk, like all of a sudden, boom, 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 it's gone. And
No, we're not-
like,
that's-
well, hold on, we
that's
did
not
all
what's
this
on-
work, you
Yeah,
know?
that's not what we're, I
You
don't
know.
think that's what's being proposed right now. I think it's right now, it's
Two
it's the
meetings a
gap.
month for a year and you're thinking of, oh my
Yeah,
goodness,
I
it's
don't
just
think
gonna go
anyone
away,
wants,
you
I
know?
don't think anyone wants to do that. People don't want to take away from the work that went into it. So the gap, certainly, yes. And if you have, and you can find any of that backup from what happened, personally, I would appreciate the insight.
Funny thing is, I have big folders at home of all the notes from.
You may regret what
and
you
I thought
asked
about
for.
I actually thought about bringing them in tonight and putting them on the countertop and saying, hey, this is the kind of work.
There
that-
might be a box
that
on
went
your
into
front
this,
porch
you
in the
know?
morning, Jonathan.
I can add it to the pile. Thank you, Gage. All right, so then I guess resolution for this item for the time being is that we're gonna, yeah, well, okay, so
But for the record, I'm not okay with the additional cost to the resident.
I understand. So we'll get the memo on the gap and get some of the backup and maybe look into it a little bit further. Okay. Okay, so Commissioner Kennedy, are we okay with that? We're gonna get the memo on the, okay, all right, great. Just want to make sure. All right, so for the time being, that concludes 12B. Let's move on to 13. 13A, I understand, we already discussed this at the end of the budget meeting 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. Paul, would you mind introducing 13A for us, please?
Correct. For the timing with the new manager and the timing of a set of financials to update the second draft of our workshop budget, it was desirable to move the meeting, looking for a motion to approve.
Okay. The 17th.
Yes,
We got a yes, we got a yes. Good to move.
and that was not my yes, that was saying an answer. Yes.
Okay, well, you got 3 yeses. Okay. So 13B, we already discussed. 13C, we've moved. So 13D is the last item, which is my item. So there's not a whole lot that, I kind of previewed this for us at the budget meeting. I provided a little bit of backup on the procedures for this. The basic background is that we don't need to do a lot here to apply for certified local government status with the Florida's Bureau of Historic Preservation. If that's the right title for it, I keep finding different titles for it, but that's what I think it is. We really need to do only 2 things. We need to establish an ordinance that complies with the Bureau. And the Bureau will basically work with us to do it. So we can have our attorneys write it up based on the form. It's a form from what I understand. They'll work with us. They'll make sure it's going to pass when we set it up. And then we need to establish a board of historical preservation, which is it's written as a 5-member board. It's just residents, whomever we decide, we want to try and put forth to do it. I understand that a municipality as small as ours can be 3 to 5 person board. We do those 2 things, and then we can apply for certified local government status. What this does, other than certifying that our government has historical, significance, is that it opens up opportunities to matchless grants. Now they have to serve certain purposes, but the one that we talked about for the log cabin is a good example. We could get, I think it was up to $50,000 in matchless grants through this program. So we could, because this is the only historic designated property in the village. It is, there's only one, it's this one. And now it doesn't just have to be used on historic properties, but it has to serve the purpose of the Bureau, of the division. They can still be designated though. They can, if the owner of it goes through the process, they can still be designated as historically relevant. And we could do, I was recommended that we do a survey of the whole village and we go through all of those steps. That's expensive.
Kind of benefit.
There used to be a tax break for,
Yeah, I'm
there's
sure
still-
that there are other benefits that come along with
They
it.
have a couple of places in the village.
So to, let's say, run the survey of the entire village to determine historical significance and what properties may qualify for that, getting grants through this program would be a good way to do that. So again, we can apply for certain grants and they are matchless. They're matchless up to a certain dollar amount. I think the ceiling is about $50,000, but that's a lot of money for us. I mean, that would have done a large portion of what we're looking to do here, money that we don't have to budget for.
Yeah, we have a $78,000 match, so
We don't, right,
we
and
might
with
be
this,
able
we
to
don't have to match. So-
apply for that. We do both.
Now, I don't know what the life of this application process looks like. I know that once you submit the application, I think within a month or two, you can get approval, but I don't know, it's gonna take us some time to get the ordinance on record. It's gonna take us some time to establish the board. Of course. So I don't know, that would significantly delay any type of, any changes we want to make here. So those are really the only two requirements. It's kind of cost neutral to us, which is great. So it's just establishing this to open us up to free money. So hold on there.
Think you have full support.
It's good.
My only question is, and I'm not being negative in any way, because I can see the benefits of this. I read it. And it sounds cool, right? What other benefits are there to us having this designation? And are there any unintended consequences to this? Like, I don't know, and I don't know what those would be, like, oh, insurance, because you're historic now, the insurance goes through the roof because you're a historic building or something. I don't know. Are there any things that come along for the ride that could be negative, that will bite us in the ass later? Architectural restrictions, I think. Yeah, like,
Oh,
are there
no, we're not-
limitations to what people could do? Does it change our land?
It's not the properties. It's just the government. It's this government of Biscayne Park. It's not any of the properties that we're saying need to be limited or, fall under this designation. It's only a program that's directed at the actual local government itself. Now, I don't know if that changes anything.
I don't know. I'm just sort of thinking like, can you not put up solar panels because now it's historic and you're a historic place? So I don't know.
Well, so if
Again, sometimes these things you find out like, yeah, but. So are there any negative?
This is a much narrower program. I mean, I've used them.
so I spoke with bureau chief.
You went through all of it.
Yeah, I had a conference call with them, had exchanged some emails. Of course, they didn't communicate to me any potential drawbacks.
Right.
It's something that I could set up with them and ask, are you willing to speak to the commission at our next meeting to talk about
That'd be great.
what we can do? In the meantime, in order to get this moving in the right direction, I'd like, with commission's approval, to ask our attorneys to begin drafting that ordinance. And then look
We
at.
don't have to pass it if we
Right,
decide,
just-
if we find out,
Exactly.
unearth something. No, yeah.
And again, and Ed, this is something that the department will help with. They'll review it and they'll tell you, okay, this works or it doesn't work. They should be able to tell you down to the letter. And I believe, if my understanding is correct, that it's basically a form.
So staffing that board will be quite easy. I got an email recently from another resident saying we should have something like that, unrelated to your topic. It's just coincidentally. So David Raymond would love to be involved in this.
There are several people I could think of off the top of my head that would be very well
And
suited.
do you know Melinda Cleary?
I know the name.
She's lived in the village for, if you're listening, Melinda, tell her, she's not. I know where she is right now. She's lived in the village for, I want to say like, I don't know, 50, 60 years, something like that. And they have one of the style houses. There was an historic committee of some kind at one point that was an informal kind of social group here. No, and she was in charge of it, and they did a survey of homes and they printed a book that with the pictures of the cool historic buildings in Biscayne Park. And wrote up a lot of history of them. It's where I got some of the information for my original McMansion item.
Yep. Is that book? I think isn't there a book like that at the rec center? Could be.
Or are you thinking that, what's that one called Biscayne, Boulevard of Dreams or whatever?
It might be.
No, it's not that one. This is a little like sort of hand printed
Gotcha.
paperback thing.
Pamphlet type.
But anyway, you might want to talk to her at some point because she can, I think she has like a bunch of information she can hand you. She's done a lot of the groundwork on that for years.
And I know, so just off the top of my head, without looking at more detail for it, I know a few of the requirements for the board is that they don't meet every month. So it's not it's not an onerous request. It's once a quarter, which isn't too bad. There's, I think, an annual report that they're responsible for that goes to the division, that probably is form in nature. So there's not a whole lot that we would be asking that board and they're meeting less frequently. So it might be good for some of the people that have served on boards in the past here that want to be involved in this type of initiative. So I guess that would be, the next point is I can look up the procedure exactly and propose something on how we establish that board. Have the attorneys bring back to us a draft of the ordinance and then I'll
You can invite them to come in.
and then, yeah, ask them if in September, if they have some time to field a couple of questions from us early on in the meeting.
You know, they're gonna say we have to get all the trash cans off the street. Just let you know.
When would you like this ordinance?
I'd say probably by the October meeting, because if September, we're going to have the discussion with these people, with the division, then that's a good
Good
first
bill.
step.
And we have budget stuff to get through.
Right, so if it's by October, I think that's fine. So that's it.
Hold on. What? Well, Jonathan, go ahead and finish. You have stuff.
No, that's it. That's what I'll do from here. That's what I'll have the attorneys do from here. If they're be so kind, we'll work with the division. I'll ask them to come for our September meeting and we'll go.
And I know you have another item you have to do. Next meeting stuff.
Oh. Placement on items for next agenda.
Sorry.
Like, I don't have any other ones. I guess at least right now, the only one that we would have would be 13C is the commission meeting.
Yeah, so
Would be M's or
We're gonna
something.
move that forward and get it on.
Yeah, we'd be moved that to
I
September.
want to point out that I put as a backup I didn't have internet today until like 10 minutes before I left the house. It was kind of a peaceful,
Oh, your memo.
stressful day.
Yeah.
So I added a memo onto the agenda. I don't know if you guys saw it. So it's my sort of comments to Vero's item. So please take a minute to read that before the next meeting. I appreciate that. And one of the things I discuss on there is I find that to be a valuable thing when we add backup things like that on the agenda. I appreciate sort of having a head start on things before I even get in the meeting. Budget workshop is a perfect example of that. All three of us had things as backup on the agenda. So when I came in here, I knew what you guys, and so I had a head start in my head. I think it makes for a more productive meeting. So it's one of the things.
We need to be really careful about that. We need, because you're talking about things that are on the agenda, and if we get that back and forth, we're in violation.
Well, but the back and forth isn't happening.
It is. It essentially is. It's just a really good idea.
Valerie's the one that told me to do it.
I don't.
Not here.
Told you to do that.
No, she.
We
she
certainly
told me to.
can't have everybody sending out memos saying what they're going to talk about at the next meeting. We cannot.
Putting that, this is what she, because I wanted to send something out. I forget. She said, nope, put it as a backup. She said, you can put whatever on the agenda you want to as a backup because you're just putting it there.
Discussing stuff between yourselves,
Well, of course we're not. I didn't say to discuss though.
but you're suggesting that that's what we do going forward. And that's,
I didn't say to discuss it outside the meeting.
no, but sending those emails back and forth is
No,
the same thing.
I'm not sending an email to anybody.
Her and having her send it out is the same thing.
All right, well, I'm just following the instructions of Valerie. I'm just following her instructions. She said. to
Not
do it.
here, and I'm making the decision.
Okay. I'm just letting you know, she
Yeah,
told me to do it that
We
way.
need to be.
Let me add a strategy that might fit what I know what you're saying exactly. I live it too, is often you send those to the clerk or the manager and we consolidate them into a package independently of each other. So you're not sharing them and then seeing the other person's comments
Never
and then
suggested that
responding.
I would send anything to these guys.
No,
Send it
I
to
know.
Shantae and she puts it on the agenda.
It's the scenario where the email hits all the other commissioners, then they write theirs in response to seeing yours. And that's, I think, the conduit that you're trying
Well,
to
then
close.
if we say, if you want them on,
Send them
if
to
you
the
want to
clerk.
put something on, have it to Shantae by this date,
Yeah,
puts them all on at one time. Or
we manage it so it's not creating a dialogue. Is that sufficient?
Well,
That hit it?
I
Figure it out at any rate.
I was gonna say, I read your memo. I think it brings up some good items for discussion when this item comes up in the September meeting. So well taken. We'll look at it then. Motion to adjourn?
Second,
All right. Yes.
yes.
Thanks, everybody.